I didn't care what the negatives or what the cons were for joining the military. It's like I just knew I wanted to be a SEAL. Going into Buds the first time, it was like I just did push-ups and sit-ups, and I remember thinking like, I don't want to get comfortable thinking that this is how it is. Something's coming. Day one of first phase, that bell just did not stop ringing the whole day, and it was a grind, man. In my mind, I'm like, you know what, I just got to get it done. But I just sucked in the water. I ended up failing and getting dropped, and it was just, they ripped that Band-Aid off, man. You go to a board, oh, you've already been rolled, check, pack your shit. So I remember, calling up my old man and telling him what happened, and he's like, well, what are you gonna do? And I was like, I'm gonna fight my way back.
Before you continue the path back to Buds, can we take just a minute and talk about Guantanamo?
Yeah, man, I mean, it was...
Since the Civil War, dogs have stood alongside our military, proving to be indispensable partners. Our military prioritized ensuring proper canine nutrition for optimal performance, recognizing its vital role in mission success. Team Dog embodies that standard, offering science-based, customizable meal plans tailored to your dog's unique needs. Developed by a former Navy SEAL and canine trainer, Team Dog Food ensures the highest quality nutrition for our canine companions. Improve your dog's well-being. Be your dog's hero with Team Dog.
Ladies and gentlemen, as always, it's both an honor and a pleasure to welcome my next guest to the podcast. He's a former SEAL. He also was a canine handler, sniper, and breacher. He attempted Buds 6 fucking times, Goggins who, before earning his Trident. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage, not to be confused with Tom, Johnny Collins.
What's up, brother?
Do you get that joke made a lot?
Yeah,
Tom
all
Collins
the time.
joke?
But John Collins it's the same drink, but with gin.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No shit.
And I'm a gin guy, so it works.
Well, fuck, it's like it was meant to be, huh? Yeah. First, thanks for coming. With your background and what I've done for the last couple of decades, it seems like an inherent good fit. But I know everybody's busy, and I appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to come and sit down with me. So thank you.
For sure, bro. Thanks for having me.
What's the last full book that you've read and actually finished?
Blood Meridian.
Really?
You ever read that?
It sounds familiar. I've not read it.
Cormac McCarthy. I was on like a Western tear for a while, and I'd read like Lonesome Dove and Killers of the Flower Moon and Empire of the Summer Moon, and then this was the last one I read in my little Western tour, and it's brutal, man. And it's kind of like, it's hard to read because he doesn't use quotations like when characters are speaking, so you got to kind of go back and forth. And I was listening to it on Audible as well, and I mean, it's good, man, but it's hard to track. But it's violent. I know they're talking about making a movie out of it, and I'm like, there's no way you can make that book into a movie. Just
because of the violence, or
a lot of what he writes about is like the nature, like nature and like the desert and the landscape. Like it's a character in the book.
Oh, I gotcha.
So I mean, you go through pages of them talking about what the mountains look like and how the sun's beating down, and it's like pages of that. So, but it was good.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Was there a single takeaway from it?
Not really, man. It was just entertaining.
Yeah. Amen. What's something you wish you were better at?
Golf.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you suck at golf, or you just wish you were better?
I suck, and I wish I was better. It's
obviously you enjoy playing it.
I mean, I love shooting, and it reminds me of shooting because of all the fundamentals, and it's like your driver's like your long gun, your irons is like your AR, and then your putter's like your pistol, your balls are your ammo. You got to distance it out, and yeah, it's fun. I just suck ass.
Do you play a lot?
I try to, man. I mean, with work and life and kids and stuff, it's tricky, but whenever I can.
Yeah. I suspect I know the answer to this question. I'm going to ask it anyway. If time travel were possible, where and when would you go?
1800s settling the West, you know.
Where do you fit into the societal structure? Are you a Wyatt Earp guy or
I feel like
Billy
more
the
like
Kid?
the like pioneering.
Okay.
You know, just like kind of cruising through like the country and just, you know, clearing out Indians, you know.
So more of a violent Lewis and Clark?
Yeah, totally.
Is there a specific part of that era in history that that fascinates you the most, or like what's the biggest draw to then? Because obviously if you look back, 2,000 years, there's a lot of points in history and different parts of the globe where you could do those same or live that same lifestyle, I guess. What is it about that in particular?
Dude, I'm a patriot, man, and I love that, we came to this country to, have freedom, and I feel like being on that first push, and just settling it and like just finding like a place to where you can live your life and just be free. But then like the danger aspect to it, it's like, you got the elements that just take people out, the cold, like the winters, nature, like snakes, bears, whatever, wolves. And then you got the human aspect too, it's exciting, and it's, you're on the forefront of like history, just settling this country.
Yeah. There's a lot of different angles to that, I guess, in terms of that point in our history. Do you put any thought into kind of reconciling, the pioneering aspect in terms of looking at it from the Native American perspective? And I'll preface that with, I'm not naive to the fact that, since human beings stood upright, taking over other people's lands and, like fighting over territory and whatever has been part of the human experience for its entirety. I'm just curious if that's something that you ever think about or
Look, as far as reconciling, it just kind of is what it is, man. The Indians were at war with each other. They were at war with the Mexicans, like before white men ever even settled into this country or stepped foot on it, So everyone's like, oh, the white man took over. It's like, no, dude, these guys were warring with each other for centuries, and, we were just another, aspect of war. And, it's a shame that we couldn't figure it out. And, it's not lost on me that the U.S. government fucked the Indians over, and it sucks for them. But it's just, how do you reconcile that,
Yeah. No, just, like I said, just curious. Do you have a favorite quote?
They peed on your fucking rug. No.
What are we talking about? Dogs, women, what?
Lebowski, Walter, Big Lebowski. Yeah, no. Probably that which does not kill you only makes you stronger.
Yeah.
First time I heard that was, or first time I saw that quote was at the beginning of Conan the Barbarian, and I was like, damn, dude. And that whole movie is just like, he was the original like Buds guy, on the wheel of pain, pushing logs and shit,
Yeah, absolutely. EDC-wise, what are you rocking?
It depends on the mission.
I guess, what do you rock the most? Like just day-to-day run around town, et cetera?
Phone, wallet, keys, got some sort of knife usually, like a flip, and then like a multi-tool. And then if I'm packing, I got a Glock 19.
Is it tricked out at all or totally stock?
Totally stock. I got a light on it, but it's more for, I guess, recoil management, because it's got the thumb lever on the end of it. I'm not a Glock fan, but it's the smallest gun that I can carry, so
right.
Until I get my hands on a 365.
Yeah. Hopefully not a 320 from the sounds of it. Dude, what's going on with that, man?
Desk pops everywhere, man.
That reference I picked up on. That shit's crazy, man.
Crazy.
An airman was just killed.
Yeah, dude. My buddy was telling me about it. I think the guy was taking his belt off, and the gun was holstered, but it was condition 1, and it just cranked off around it.
Yeah. There's I want to say dozens of examples of similar things happening with law enforcement that have been carrying it, and some of them are even on video, and it's pretty obvious that it's not operator error, that it's absolutely a malfunction. How SIG hasn't like come out and really addressed that and recalled all of them or
Yeah.
done something proactive is pretty baffling, because SIG is otherwise a great company, I think. I mean, I carry a 365 and fucking love it.
Yeah, it's sick.
So it's really strange. If your house was on fire, and we'll exclude family members, pets, etc., one material object that you can pull out of there and take with you, what's it going to be?
Gun.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Just a gun or a
Well,
specific?
if I can only grab one, then probably. I mean, I'm going to grab as many of my guns as I can get, but yeah.
Is there one that stands out as,
probably my AR?
yeah, what brand is it?
What is it? Colt?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Just kind of an OG standard.
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah.
Yeah. My old man gave it to me.
Yeah. So one thing I like to kind of provide is a little bit of backdrop and context for the viewer or listener, and just kind of go through your childhood a little bit, because I think that sets the tone for really the rest of the interview. Where are you originally from, and how would you characterize your childhood?
So I grew up in a small town in Sykesville, Maryland.
Sykesville?
Sykesville. Yeah, it's about 40 minutes outside of Baltimore. Where I lived, we were we were far away from everything. Like, you're not bike riding anywhere, so a lot of farms and stuff like that. It's every time I go back, which it used to be annually, and then now it's kind of like every other year. It just gets more and more developed, so it's like not the same as I remember it. But I had a pretty decent childhood. Younger brother, younger sister. Grew up playing sports, football, lacrosse, wrestling. Did those all through high school. Or I kind of fell off junior year. And then, but yeah, man. I mean, it was running around, getting into trouble. Hanging out with friends, chasing girls, stuff like that.
Was there a specific sport that you were the best at, or that you focused the most on?
Lacrosse was probably my favorite. I wish I would have taken like wrestling a little bit more serious. I knew the moves and stuff like that. I don't know. I didn't have the mental toughness that I should have had. And I regret that, because now it's like, getting into jiu-jitsu and stuff like that, and then trying to get my kids into it, and, trying to relive it, I guess, through them. But, yeah, I liked lacrosse because it's like hockey with like not on ice, whacking people with a stick and body checking people. And
yeah. I guess in that same vein, did any sport, I guess in this case, lacrosse, was that something that you thought of or had a potential to go beyond high school with, or?
If I would have started it earlier, then probably. That's definitely something I would have liked to have pursued more, like going to college or something. But I didn't get into it until like ninth grade, or like maybe eighth or ninth grade, because I played baseball up until then, and they're both spring sports, and I got bored with baseball. I'm like, I need to be like, jacking people up, like football, wrestling. I was like, all right, let's do something else where I can hit people,
Did you get in a lot of fights growing up?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Was it, I guess, would you characterize yourself as the instigator, or like, why so much fighting?
I mean, I was an angry kid, and I just kind of looked for it, and people were always down to throw down. So I was like, all right, let's go.
Was there, I guess, looking back on it, any idea where that anger stemmed from?
I mean, my parents got divorced when I was like eighth grade, and I grew up in a pretty strict household. My dad was a cop, went to a Christian school. It was very strict with, as far as like, you can't do this, you can't do that. And then when my parents split, I was like, I'm going rogue. I'm momming and popping, and I'm gonna kind of do. I felt free, and then with that freedom, though, I was just like, I had all this anger too, so it was just like, what are you looking at, kind of thing.
Does the way that your parents raised you impact how you raise your children? Like, do you think about that often?
All the time.
Like
Yeah.
trying to do the opposite of type stuff, or
Not always the opposite, because there's some stuff that like I definitely want to teach my kids that I was taught. Maybe I didn't like it at the time, but the way I do it, I'm trying to maybe not be as on the nose, I guess. Like I don't dish out spankings as much as I got. I probably deserved them, but like I tell my kids to drop down. I'm like, push up position,
how old are they?
5. Well, it's mainly my 5-year-old. 5, 3, and 1.
You got your hands full there, huh?
Dude.
Yeah.
But when the 5-year-old goes down, it's funny. Like the 3-year-old and the 1-year-old get down too.
Yeah. Jumping in on it. I did some of that with my kids when they were in that same age group. But yeah, I mean, agree. Like I think that there's a happy medium with
Right.
that. It's got to make sense. And there's a lot of parallels to dog training, I think, which you've probably
Totally.
paralleled, but which we'll definitely get into. But were there any, other than your parents getting divorced, were there any other impactful moments during your childhood that either shaped or were catalysts for something or pivoted your life path at all?
I feel like 9/11 was like kind of like snapped me back to reality a little bit.
How old were you when that happened?
I was a sophomore in high school.
Yeah.
So maybe not childhood, but I mean, I was at that point, like I said, I was kind of running rogue. And when I saw that, I was like, whoa, like what's going on in the world,
Was that a catalyst for you wanting to join the military?
I mean, I always wanted to be a SEAL.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, ever since I can remember, like, my dad was a cop. He was on the SWAT team. He always had the gear. I'd be putting on his like flak jacket and all that stuff. And, he had the Army fatigues and I'd be wearing them and they'd be huge on me. And, watching like war movies and stuff like Platoon and, Saving Private Ryan and Navy SEALs, obviously, our biography,
Yeah.
But yeah, I always wanted to be a SEAL, like more so because you didn't really know what SEALs did back then. It's like, okay, I'm watching, these Marine movies and storming the beaches and different things like that. But it's like, oh, SEALs do that too. But like, how do they do it? Like, what's their angle? Because back then there were no books. There was no nobody was really coming out and saying anything. I was like, that's what I like about it. Is like they're just like ninjas,
Mm-hmm. Do you remember? You said that you, as long as you can remember, you always wanted to be one. But do you remember your introduction to the SEAL teams, like how you found out about them?
Oh, man. So my dad had Rogue Warrior on like cassette tape, and I remember like listening to a little bit of that, and I was like, whoa, like this is crazy. And then it wasn't until I think it was the 234 video came out, and I saw that documentary. I was like, oh, that's training. Like that's what the big secret is.
Yeah, and that jump started your interest for it.
Well, like I said, I always kind of had the interest, and I always like wanted to do that. But then, in high school when I was on my own program, like I just was like I didn't care about anything. I was just like, where am I going to get my next bag of weed?
Yeah.
Like that was like the extent of like my, thinking ahead.
Did you live with your mom or your dad, or did you split time?
I started out living with my mom, and then I ended up living with my dad.
Yeah. As a SWAT cop, did he instill and or put any effort into teaching you how to shoot and do anything above and beyond just kind of basic raising a son stuff?
Yeah, he taught me how to shoot pistol and rifle with iron sights. But then when I started taking the military and joining, like going to Buds seriously, he's like, I don't want to teach you any bad habits, so I'm just he's like, we can go shoot, but learn from team guys,
Right.
But I mean, honestly, like the way he taught me is the exact same way, it's like front sight focus, all that stuff,
Yeah,
so,
all the basics.
Yeah.
Being somebody who fought a lot, did you do any type of martial arts training, or was it just total street brawl?
Street brawls.
Yeah.
I mean, the wrestling helped.
Right.
That helped me win fights because it's just like double leg takedown, mount them, beat them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. At what point did you actually dedicate and commit to being a SEAL other than just that's what I want to do? Like, did you graduate and join immediately after? Did you do anything in between?
So after I got out of high school, you know, all my friends went to like community college or went away to, you know, state college or whatever. And I was like, well, I guess I got to go to college because that's what everybody's doing. And I didn't even make it through a semester. And I was like, this is a waste of time for me. And so I ended up, you know, working different odd jobs or whatever. You know, did some construction, stuff like that. And then I was working at a Hollywood video. And one of the guys I worked with, we had worked together for a while. He was a good dude. And he came in one day to put in his 2 weeks. And I was like, what's up, man? Like, where you going? Like, why, you got another job or what's up? And he's like, nah. He's like, I joined the Army. I was like, the Army, really? And he's like, yeah. He's like, I'm shoving off in like a month, and that's that. I was like, I started kind of like giving him a hard time. I'm like, dude, if you're gonna join, like, why don't you like, you know, join the Marines or, you know, do something hard? No offense to my Army bros, but that's kind of where I was at the time. And then he's like, yeah, it's just what I want to do. I was like, all right. And then I'll never forget, like, you know, I'm putting movies back in their cases, and I'm standing, you know, at the desk and looking out the window, and he walked by, and like the look he had on his face was like this like stoic, like proud look. And I had to like check myself. I'm like who the fuck am I to be judging this guy for joining the Army when I'm not doing shit? And I just kind of started like, you know, listening to that little voice again, and I was like, I'm gonna join the teams.
Yeah.
Like it just like it came back to me, you know.
And how soon did you actually join from when that happened?
Probably about a year and a half. Like I remember, like I was so pumped to go home and tell my old man, like, this is what I want to do. And then, you know, I started training, and then I couldn't make it like a half a mile on a run, you know. And I was like, oh, I gotta put the work in. You know, I can't just like shove off in 2 weeks. You know, I gotta like build up the time and train. You know.
And was that the primary focus for that year and a half?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like once I knew that that's what I wanted to do, like, or once I remembered that that's what I wanted to do, I was like that. I was all in.
Yeah.
You know.
What year did you join?
2006.
2006. And so at that time, did you actually get the whole SEAL contract and pipeline and the whole thing?
Yeah. So I made sure like I wasn't signing anything unless I had that guarantee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Walk us through, I guess, the 6 times the charm. Like,
How much time we got?
yeah, we got all day. So.
All right, so yeah, joined in 2006. It was like Halloween when I left for boot camp, and classed up in early 2007. My first class was 264, and yeah, man. I mean, I went into Buds thinking like this is the hardest thing I'm ever gonna do. You know, it's like just whatever they throw at me. It's like, you know, I was just anticipating that this is just going to be the hardest thing ever because of the attrition rate, because of the stories you hear. And, you know, back then it was kind of, I loved going through Buds. I mean, that's why I went through so many times, because it was like the best time you never want to have again, but I just kept going back for more. But I loved it, man, because it was, back then, like the instructors had, like Big Navy wasn't really involved. You know, like I didn't see any, other than like medical, like there was no real admin personnel, maybe supply. But other than that, it was just like instructors roaming around and like fucking with you. You know, I was like always trying to like dodge them or whatever, you know. But yeah, so classed up with 264, and you know, it was funny like looking back on it. You know, I remember in doc thinking like this isn't so bad, which I don't want to get comfortable thinking that this is how it is. You know, it's like something's coming, you know, because I mean, you did a little bit of, you know, log PT towards like the end of Indoc, you know, a little bit of boats on heads, but they cut it off like right when it started to hurt. was like, okay. And I remember like guys like high-fiving each other in the class up party. Everybody shaves their heads and, talking about like, we're going to be SEALs and all this. And man, day one of first phase, that bell just did not stop ringing the whole day. And it was a grind, man. Especially back then, like I said, I feel like the cadre was a little bit more off the leash. And, which I was like, yeah, man, like, I wanted the full Benny, like I've heard guys say like I don't want to go through like a winter hell week and this and that. It's like, dude, like give it to me, bro. Like I'll take it because I feel like when you go through, like the harder it is, like the more like it's like the more deserved it is, like when you actually earn it like that, it's like, man, like nobody can say you just skated by, and some guys that was their angle and they didn't last long.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, first, second, third week, our class, I think we started out with maybe like 220, 230, and then I got rolled the Friday before Hell Week for swim times. I just sucked in the water, and that's like a reoccurring theme throughout my Buds career is I just couldn't swim fast, and so they wouldn't even let me get into Hell Week because I failed all my swims. And so went to the board, got dressed down, and they gave me my performance role. So had to go back to PTRR / INDOC. They were kind of all getting classed up. 265 was getting classed up, and rolled in with them. Did INDOC first, second, third week of first phase again. I've been working on my swims at the CTT and just like, going on the weekends or whenever I had time, just trying to like get the stroke down, like that combat side stroke, and ended up getting to a point where I was passing first phase times. I think it was, it's 85 minutes in first phase, 80 in second, and 75 in third, I think, for a 2-mile swim. And I was like 83 minutes. So I'm like, all right, well, I'll worry about second phase times when I get there. It's like I'm doing enough for passing first phase standards. So ended up getting to go to Hell Week for with 265. Made it through Hell Week, and then right when I classed up for second phase, so I had injured my neck from boats on heads, and doing back-to-back first phases will do it to you, and it was like I couldn't look left or right. My head was just like it was just like stiff, and I was like turning like Batman, and so I went to medical, and they're like, yeah, you've got, they took X-rays and stuff, and they're like, yeah, like basically the cartilage in between your discs is like gone, and so they put me on like they gave me a medical roll, and just let me kind of rehab it. They had me doing like PT exercises with like a band where I could like stretch my neck and stuff like that. So I was a brown shirt rollback for maybe like a month and a half.
Was I there when you were in there?
I don't remember you.
Yeah. Because most of my time, I mean, I was an instructor while you were going through, but yeah. Most of the time I was in the brown shirt rollback with Ty Woods.
I remember Ty.
And but there were times where they would push me to like INDOC, for certain phases.
I think I do remember that actually. I mean, yeah. I don't think we ever had like direct like interaction, but yeah. I remember you floating now that you mention it. Yeah. Because Ty was the one who, like when I had to go back, when I had to class up for second phase with 266, I had to do like a class up test. So it was like the swim, the run, the O course, and I had failed my swim, and I think my time was like 82 minutes or something like that. And then Ty pulled me aside and he's like, look, I'm going to give you one more shot. and that's it. He's like, if you don't make the cut, you're gone. So it was like later in the week, I think it was like Thursday or Friday before we classed up on Monday. We did the swim again, and I failed again, but I failed by like 8 seconds. And he pulled me in, and he's like, I can tell you want to be here. So he's like, I don't usually do this, but I'm gonna give you a shot.
The hat on the coffee table sitting right in front of me belonged to Glenn Doherty. It was a John Deere hat that I gave him. He had it when he tragically passed in Benghazi. Bubs Naturals is a tribute to Glenn. They have collagen peptides, which I put into my morning routine every single morning, as well as the functional creamer / MCT oil that goes into it as well. They have hydrate or dielectric electrolyte drink mixes, which are great for pre-workout, during workout, and post-workout to get all the added sodium, potassium, magnesium, et cetera, that's required when you deplete it. You know, Bubs is a family company. The way that they started is, again, super close to my heart, with him being one of my closest friends for a long time. And I encourage you to go to bubs.com, and now there's a landing page specifically for Mic Drop listeners. Just enter the code Mike, M-I-K-E, all caps, and you get 20% off your first purchase at bubsnaturals.com. So that's www.bubsnaturals.com/Mike. And you can check out the Mic Drop landing page and go support an amazing cause.
I was like, I mean, I'm forever like in debt to that man for hooking me up like that. But I knew I was like in trouble, you know? And so classed up with 266 and ended up getting dropped for pool comp, man. You know, you had 4 chances at the test, 2 on Friday and then 2 on Monday. And I had that long weekend, and it was on me, man, because I didn't do any dirt diving. I didn't like train for it. I was just like, in my mind, I'm like, you know what? I just got to get it done. You know, it's like, you know, because they give you the wooden tanks and they say, hey, you can train with these on the grinder, you know, and that's throughout the week. You know, if you fail any tests, like you can go and train on the grinder with the wooden tanks. And I guess at the time I was just like, well, I'm not in the water, you know, it's just like, you know, dry firing. Like I'm not really like, you know, like, what am I going to, how much am I actually going to get better, you know, by using these tanks? Well, it's like, I didn't get better at all. And I ended up failing and getting dropped. And it was like, they ripped that Band-Aid off, man. There was no appeals. There was no like, you know, I'm talking to, you know, my C daddy or anything like that. It was like, you go to a board, oh, you've already been rolled, check. Pack your shit. And that sucked, dude. Like that was, because at this point, you know, going through 2 first phases, you know, getting through Hell Week, you know, having that like, you know, knowing that you're not going to quit, right? It's like I've seen the dragon, you know, and I can do this, and then just not meeting the standard, which, you know, like I was heartbroken, but I respected the fact that they held the standard, you know, and so I packed my sea bag up and marched across the street to X Division, which you've never met a tougher bunch of dudes than the guys that just quit buds, you know. They're just like, you'd think that they were team guys, the way they walk around and beat their chest and all this. I'm like, dude, you guys are all fucking pussies. And, you know, and I'm here because I got dropped. It's like, yeah, it's on me, but it's like, you guys rang that bell, you know? And so I remember, you know, calling up my old man and telling him what happened. And he's like, well, you know, what are you going to do? And I was like, I'm going to fight my way back. It's like, I'm not just going to, like, this isn't the end of it, you know? Like, I've got to find a way back, you know? Like, this is who I am. This is what I want to do. So I went to, you know, the recruiter and talked to him, or the guy that cuts orders, and I was like, what's the fastest way back to Buds? He's like, well, we got a 1-year billet to Guantanamo Bay. I'll take it. So it was a few other guys and myself, because there was like 3 of us that got dropped for pool comp, like all in that same class, and we all wanted to go back. And, you know, there was a few quitters that wanted to go back too. So we all kind of, you know, we were all on our own program, but at the same time, like sharing notes, like, hey, what'd you hear? Like, what's the fastest way back? And we all kind of like agreed that, you know, Gitmo was it. So took the orders, ended up having to go to Gulfport, Mississippi for like 2 months because they were pulling in people from all over the Navy, that were going to go to Gitmo that got orders. So hung out there for a couple months until they, mustered everybody up. And then we went to Washington for like a month, and they basically ran us through like a mock prison camp, and like, this is what you do in the prison, and this is how you're gonna, take them to the rec yard or serve them chow or whatever. And they had a little like FTX at the end where the cell block is just blowing up and people are freaking out and whatever. So then I go down to Guantanamo Bay, and that was like, looking back on that, man, it was just like a whole nother life I lived. It was a great place to train, and it was great motivation because I'm dealing with these fucking terrorists, on a day to day. And not only that, I've got to deal with like getting back to buds and trying to get orders and figuring that out. And, you go down there, and the first person I talked to is like, the chief that cuts the orders. And she hated buds, duds, especially guys that were trying to go back. And so, I'm like an E-nothing in the Navy, been in for a year, and I'm trying to like, tell them my career goals, and they're not trying to hear it. And it became apparent real fast that like they weren't going to help. And they saw us, like, they saw how we trained. Like, we trained in the morning before work and then trained again after we got off, and they saw that we were serious about this, and they kind of started like poking at us, like it's just like big Navy bullshit. It's like, these are all like fleet sailors, and there's some good friends I made down there, but and they were always rooting for us. I still talk to the guys and girls that were down there and Gitmo with me, but like the chain of command, like the LPOs and the chiefs and the whole goat locker was like, fuck these guys. And you could tell because they would put us on like the worst pods, like the worst cell blocks, with like the guys that were going on hunger strikes and like smearing shit on their walls, and like, it was like, go in there and clean that up, E3. It's like, all right, that's like, and you got to just take it, man. It's like, hey, this is what you get for not training with those wooden tanks, So it's like, just stay the course, like, don't get in any fights, don't get caught, doing anything stupid with alcohol, whatever. So that 1 year billet turned into 19 months. And it got to a point where I'm like, they're like, we're not sending you back as an undesignated seaman. Like, you have to strike a rate. And it's like, choose your rate, choose your fate kind of thing. And it was between like AO or GM. I was like, well, let me go with GM because at least like I'll get to play with guns, And from what I understood, like they were kind of, they had a lot of GMs, so they could afford to let me go. So that's what I went with and made, GM3. And then it got to a point where I had to backdoor some people to get orders. They weren't routing up my paperwork, and I was just like, fuck it, man. Like, I'm just gonna, make some calls, see who I can get in touch with. And, I had to like kind of do my test, my dive test or whatever, without my chain of command knowing, and because when they knew that we had something scheduled, they would be like, oh, well, you got to come in and you got to do whatever, some bullshit, work. So I just did it on my day off, just never said anything to anybody, and got it done, put it in my package, and then routed it up. And they got all pissed when they found out I had orders. But as soon as I got orders, man, I was like, that's my Trident. Like, that's it, and I'm staying on like the straight and narrow. I pinned them on my cork board in my hooch, and I was just like, I'm not leaving this room unless it's to go to the gym or get chow. Other than that, I'm just gonna just keep my head down, and because I can't afford to lose these. So Yeah, 19 months later, man, I ended up getting my orders, going back. But at this time, they had the Buds Prep out in the Great Lakes. So I had to go there first. And, you got all these, I think at the time, I forget what they call them, but like the boot camp classes where it's just all, Buds candidates.
Yeah.
And
Before you continue the path back to Buds, can we take just a minute and talk about Guantanamo?
yeah.
I am curious. I mean, I've never been there. It was something that, especially at that time, you heard a lot about.
Yeah.
It was politically pretty heated. What was your kind of expectation versus reality of what you'd heard about it and then actually showing up? Like, were there any almost household name guys that you saw there that you were interacting with terrorist-wise, and were there any crazy things that happened that are story-worthy?
So I knew that there were some guys down there, like KSM was down there, but I never saw him. He was in another camp somewhere. Like they had different camps for like, your security clearance levels and stuff like that. I was just, we worked side by side with the Army. They had a camp right next to the one that we worked at. And like within those camps, like I said, guys would, hunger strike and make a point. And it was, Obama had just gotten elected and his whole thing was like, shutting down Gitmo. So it got like real political real fast. And it got to a point where it was like these prisoners had more, detainees, we couldn't call them prisoners, right? These prisoners, they had more, I felt like more rights than we did as, being American, military members, and it was like, so we had to go into these cells where these hunger strikers were because they wouldn't come out. And so we had to go in and pull them out. And when we did that, we'd have like a little team, and we'd all like suit up in this body armor, and we'd have to do this 3 times a day, to take them out to tube feed them. And so we'd suit up, the first guy had like a shield, and then, the rest of the guys had like zip ties or whatever, and they would go and they would videotape each one of us and say, this is my badge number, and this is what we're doing. I'm the shield guy. I'm the, second man or whatever. And then, we were told that those videos went straight to D.C., because they wanted to know what was going on down there and how we were treating these people. And it was like, dude, if you look at the video, it's like you got these guys that are sitting in the corner because they never fought back either. That was the thing, is they were just doing this to give us a hard time, and make a point. But they're sitting in the corner, and we had to go in the shit-filled room and grab these guys, take them out, put them in, strap them in a chair, and then, tube feed them for a half hour, 45 minutes or whatever. And, they would all be in like this big like circle in like the middle of the pod, and they'd just be sitting there hanging out and just talking, in their language or whatever. And it got to a point where I was like, man, fuck this. Like, you know what? This isn't just like hangout time. So I turned them around and I put them facing in their cells and had them tube feed like that. They hated me, dude. Like the terrorists, which I was like, good. Yeah. Like, and they called me Shaitan, which means devil in Arabic. I was like, good, man. I was like, if these guys are calling me the devil, then I'm on the right side of the fence here,
Tube feeding wise, do you know? I mean, what's in that? Is it?
It's like protein. They had what's that stuff called? It was
like Ensure or something.
Ensure,
really?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they just shove a tube down their throat and make them eat.
Yeah.
To me, I feel like in that environment, if they don't want to eat, fuck them. I mean, I don't get the force them to eat thing. Like, if you want to starve yourself to death, that's your call.
Yeah, man. I mean,
I don't get it.
Dude, I thought of so many ways I would kill these guys. Just walking around, because we had to just do like checks. It was like 30-second checks on each like pod. It was just roving security, 24/7, 365. And you had to make sure you checked in on each cell within like 30 seconds to a minute to make sure these guys weren't trying to kill themselves. Like that was the whole point of like being a guard down there. It was like guarding them from taking their own lives, which I think one guy got away with it at a different camp. And I remember that was a big shitstorm. Somehow he got a hold of something sharp, and he cut himself in the middle of the night and just bled out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you know who any of them were, or were they all low enough level to where none of their names registered, or you didn't really?
I mean, I never heard their names come up in like, the news or anything like that, or like in any capacity like that. But we had access to like their jacket, so you could read up on them. There was a couple Taliban dudes in there, like legit, and then there were some guys that they just had like, one guy had a tank, and just a bunch of arms dealers and just. But I mean, these guys weren't just like farmers that got rolled up,
Right.
Like they were legit like nasty dudes, and you could tell, man. Like you look at them in the face, it's like these guys, they're evil,
Yeah. I guess from kind of a big picture standpoint, before you went there, and after hearing about it in the news for years, was it what you thought it would be?
No, man. It was like it was like summer camp. They ended up building a legit like FIFA-sized soccer yard for these guys to go play in, and I mean they had all the amenities that you could think of. It's like if I ever get sent to jail or prison, send me to Gitmo, dude, because it was chill for them. They got rec time. I mean some of the guys that were like really bad, it's like okay, you're gonna get put on a pod where you tube feed and you starve yourself or whatever. But like for the most part, if you were on good behavior, man, like you had like it was just a hangout, you know.
Were there ever any uprisings or guys that fought back, like any hairy scenarios?
Oh yeah, I mean it usually came every like 3 months, because then that's when like the new guards would come in, like new sailors from like the fleet would come in, and we'd do like turnovers and stuff, and then they'd have so if it was like the call sign was snowball if somebody was like fighting back, because you'd have to shackle them up to go meet with their lawyer or go to the rec yard or whatever, and sometimes they would fight back. Very rarely did that happen, unless they were pissed about something, which I just started playing games too, man. I was like, all right, well, fuck it. If I have to be here, then I'm just gonna poke at them a little bit too. It was all super subtle, they could never like stick anything to me.
What kind of stuff?
Well, the one thing that I did, so they do prayer call like 5 times a day, right? So during prayer call, you have to turn all the fans off because it's hot as hell down there. So you got fans running in the pods. You got to turn the fans off. You got to turn your radio down so you're not keying up on the radio. And then the main door to each pod is controlled like there's like a guy up in the nest that's opening doors, and they'll unlock it, and you can hear the lock retract, and the door will open. But when during prayer call, you couldn't do that. It was like, you don't want to disturb these guys, and so and we would have like 30-minute shifts. It's like 30 minutes up top, 30 minutes on the bottom, just roving security, and then like a 30-minute break. Well, if their prayer call was at like 4:28, then you were expected to be back by 4:25 to relieve your guy, and if you weren't, then you had to wait another 15 minutes for these guys to finish their prayer call so somebody could come in and relieve you. And that got annoying too when people would just intentionally not show up or be late, and it's like, now I'm here for another 15 minutes. I was counting on you to relieve me, and now I've only got a 15-minute break or whatever. And so I say that to say this. During prayer call, we would have to open up their little bean holes where we feed them chow, because you got your imam and then you got your prayer caller, and they would call prayer through these bean holes. And then when you went to shut it, like you had to stick the key in, retract the lock, and then shut the thing, because they're heavy locks, and because it's too loud and you don't want to disturb them. So I was like, fuck that, man. So one day I had it, and I'm doing roving security on the bottom, and we had like a new guards come in, and we were just doing the turnover with them. And I had already been there for probably like 15 months, and the prayer call had ended, And usually when the prayer call ends, you look in and they'll like be like, okay, thumbs up. Like you can politely shut my trap door now. Well, dude, without breaking stride, I just walked by and I slammed this fucking thing as hard as I could. And it was like lightning struck the pod. They went nuts. They were like flooding their toilets with their flip-flops. They were, it was like monkeys, dude. It was like they were started smearing shit on the walls, banging on the doors. It erupted. And they're like, what the fuck? Like, what happened? I was like, oh, that guy had like a cup of shit. I thought he was going to throw it at me. I had to shut the door real quick. And, because they make these little cocktails. It's like, cum and shit, and they'll like throw it at you. These people are like subhuman level pieces of shit, And so I was just, and I had it. So I just slammed that thing. And after that, they pulled me off the pod. I was like, man, I wish I would have thought of that earlier. But yeah, every few months they would have like, snowball was like if one guy started flipping out and fighting back, and then a blizzard was if the whole pod was like, trying to kill themselves or, whatever.
Yeah. Man, that's fucking wild. I interviewed a guy, this was very early on in my show, that developed the enhanced interrogation techniques. And
I listened to that.
Yeah. And, fascinating. Similarly, like, hearing him describe, because he interviewed KSA countless times,
Yeah.
just such a fascinating interview. And there are a lot of things, I think, that most people would expect that Guantanamo is, that it isn't.
Right.
And vice versa. But, it's, man, that's wild.
Well, if I remember correctly in that interview, because my old man showed me that. That was a while back.
Yeah, it was in the first 20 episodes.
Yeah, and I remember listening to it, and that guy said something about like the patience that they have.
Yeah.
And it's like Americans, like they're gonna get tired of war and they're gonna forget. And he's like we play the long game and we can wait it out. And it's like, dude, here we are. You know.
It was interesting. I mean, when that episode came out, the show was number 2 on iTunes, of all of iTunes, not just in a category.
Yeah.
It was in the second spot for a few days. It was amazing how Dr. James Mitchell is his name, and how popular that one was. Yeah. Really, really fun interview. But all right, so you claw your way back. You find yourself back at Bud's. Now you're in the 280s.
Yeah.
And doesn't go quite as smooth as you were hoping.
I'll tell you what, man. I was in the best shape of my life going back to Bud's, because that was the thing about Gitmo, is like I wasn't stuck on a ship to where I didn't have access to like a pool or anything like that. Like it was a great place to train.
And you knew exactly what you needed to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Going into Bud's, like for the first time, it was like I just did push-ups and sit-ups, and I ran a lot. Obviously I didn't swim enough, but like after seeing this, and Andy was my proctor when I got dropped, and he introduced me to CrossFit, and I was like, okay, like I can see why this works to train, for training for Buds, So I got real into CrossFit down in Gitmo, and there was some other like freaks down there that I trained with, and I always trained with dudes that were like, stronger and faster than me, just because it kept me like chasing them, So when I left Gitmo, dude, I was like, I wasn't drinking, I was fast, I was jacked, I was like ready to go. I was in my mind, I'm like, first time, every time, like
honor man, fucking
yeah, dude. I was like you said, man, like I'd already seen it. And it's funny too, like I've done a couple of these podcasts and people were like, oh, well, when you know what to expect, like it's easy and blah, blah, blah. It's like, dude, a kick in the nuts is a kick in the nuts.
Yeah.
It's like, and it wasn't any easier. If anything, it was like, it was colder and in some ways harder. But it was different too, because like we were getting like, briefs that we didn't get before. It was like, you shouldn't be giving money to instructors and shit like that. I was like, I remember that. I remember having the bag with all the Monster Energy drinks and the like rolls of Copenhagen and like all the snacks and shit and porn and all that shit. And then that all kind of went away. And but the cadre were still just as mean, especially first phase. But I loved them. Like it was like these are the guys I want to be like. And so, classed up with 281. 281 was 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 281. 281 I got to say too, with 265, that class we had 200 and like some odd guys go into first phase, and by the time we got to Hell Week, we were down to 90, and then, or I'm sorry, 80, and then after Hell Week we had 39.
Wow.
Yeah. So I wanted to remember those. I remember those numbers because, you know, half the class was gone after Hell Week. You know, it's like 39 dudes out of 80, out of 200 plus, you know, at the beginning. And then the numbers were pretty much the same going back, you know, with the 2.8s. And so 281, I was doing good. I was like crushing my swims, course, run, never had a problem with those. But then like the beginning of the third week, I got super sick, and I lost like 15 pounds. And I was just like, it was just like meat hanging off my bones, you know, and I was just like, my face was all thin, and I was like white, and then the weekend before Hell Week, I remember my old man came out with another team guy, buddy of his, because they wanted to watch the breakout and everything, and I couldn't stop coughing. Like, I was just coughing like all day. I couldn't catch my breath, and he's like, "You gonna be all right?" And I was like, "I mean, there's nothing I can do, you know. You just got to suck it up." And so Tuesday of Hell Week, I was hallucinating like Monday of Hell Week, and it wasn't like from lack of sleep or anything like that. It was just because I was so sick. Like, my vision was like crossed without having my eyes crossed. Like, I was seeing right on the left and left on the right, and I'm like, I'm fucked up, man. Yeah. And so Tuesday morning, I went to like the med vehicle, and I'm like, I was like, I can't catch my breath. I'm like, something's not right. And you know, medical guy looks at me. He's just thinking I'm trying to skate out of training or whatever. And he's like, "All right, go ahead, cough in your hand." So I spit up like this loogie that was just like dark red. And he's like, "All right, go to medical, we'll get checked out." And so I go there, I get checked out, and they're like, "All right, well," I remember, dude, that was the coldest fucking Hell Week too. Like, out of the 3 that I did, that one was gnarly. And
what day was it?
this was Tuesday morning.
Okay.
Yeah, so we
not quite over the bubble enough to get rolled forward.
No, and honestly, man, like looking back on it, and even then, I was like, I don't want to get like just pushed along, you know? Like, I know a couple guys that have. And I'm like, man, you never even finished fucking Hell Week, dude. Like, don't talk to me. And but I remember doing Steel Pier, dude, and that was, we had more people drop on that evolution than I've ever seen. And because you tread in water, and I could see my breath treading water. My legs, my calves, my shins, my hamstrings, and my thighs were all cramped. So I was treading water with just my arms. And, you know, it was crazy, dude. And what I found out was I had pneumonia and I had SIP. And they think that I had the SIP from the week before, which is where all the blood came from. So went to Balboa, and, you know, they're like, all right, well, you know, we'll give you a medical roll. They're like, have you been enrolled yet? I was like, no. All right, we'll give you the medical roll. And it was funny, I saw some of the same instructors that were there when I first went, you know, back in like 264, 265. And I was like, God damn, dude, like same names, you know. But that was the only time I thought about quitting, was when I got the roll, and I remember driving in my car down to IB, and it was like on like a Saturday morning, and I was like just trying to get, you know, breakfast burrito and a coffee, and just like, and I'm thinking about, I got to do all this shit again. It's like, I got to do, you know, a 4th first phase, a 3rd Hell Week. It's like, dude, I do not want to fucking do this, bro. Like, I know I can. It's just like, but that grind, you know, boats, logs, you know, surf torture, all that shit, you know, like the lack of sleep. Because honestly, I feel like the first 3 weeks are worse than Hell Week. You know, like Hell Week is Hell Week. You know, you just, waking up's the worst part. You know, if they put a bell next to my bed, I'd have rang that the first day, dude. You know, but yeah, that was the only time I thought about it. But I was like, you know what? Like, you came this far. Like, what would people say now? And I was like, remember who you are. Stop being a bitch. And So yeah, I classed up with 283 and made it all the way through to second phase with 283. Ended up becoming the LPO during Hell Week, and that was a great class, man. Like all those dudes were. I wish I would have made it through with that class, but I ended up getting another role at the beginning of second phase for shin splints. So
Were they stress fractures or just shin splints?
stress fractures.
Okay.
Yeah, and like I couldn't walk. I couldn't even put my feet on the ground, and I was on crutches and all that, which, you know, I was worried because I had already had the medical role, but I think because of the fact that I was, you know, a brown shirt, and, you know, they knew who I was at this point, and they're like, all right, well, you know, we know you're not going to quit. You know, we'll give you a role. And then I classed up a 287, and no issue after that.
Dude, that's fucking gnarly, man.
Right.
I mean, 3 hell weeks, 4 first phases. Do you know, have you checked, I guess, is that the most amount of training prior to actually making it all the way through, or are there guys with even more?
There's definitely some guys that have that, and probably guys that have more. I think Sean Murphy, did it a few times. But I counted it up one time. I did over 30 log PTs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, and the thing is too, is like, you think about how many people don't make it through once, you know, like how many people quit in the first 3 weeks, you know, how many people quit during Hell Week. And it's like, to do that not only 4 times, but like back to back, you know, it's like, there was just like no recovery time, you know, and that's the thing. It's like, yeah, you get the weekends, but it's like, you're not, it's like, you're not like recovered 100%.
Yeah.
Like you're probably at best like 50 to 60% going into Monday morning, you know?
Yeah. All right, look, half-ass sleep equals half-ass results. You can train like a beast, eat clean, hit the cold plunge, but if you're overheating in bed, none of it matters. Quality sleep isn't always about how long you sleep, but how well you sleep. And science tells us temperature plays a massive role in that. Quality sleep is a non-negotiable. Recovery doesn't happen in the gym. It happens when you're dead asleep. But if you're tossing, turning, and sweating, you're going to wreck your performance. The chili pad isn't just for professional athletes or special operations. It's for anyone who wants to sleep hard and recover harder. You set your exact sleep temp anywhere from 55 degrees to 115 degrees and let the chili pad do the rest. It's built for performance. You can set it cold as hell at night, and then you can let it gently warm you up in the morning so you wake up ready to go. No alarms, no thermostat fights with your spouse. They sent me one, I tried it, and now it's part of my nightly kit. I'm getting deeper sleep, no night sweats, and I wake up sharp. And yes, Chili Pad is made right here in the United States by people who still give a damn about quality and results. Visit www.sleep.me/micdrop to get 20% off your Chili Pad with code MICDROP, all caps, all one word. That's free shipping, free returns, and a 30-night sleep trial to test it for yourself. Again, that's www.sleep.me/micdrop. Sleep cooler, recover faster, perform better. So they gave you a 4-class role, med role, that second time?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, that's how bad the stress fractures were.
And so basically you're just on like a light limited duty thing until your x-rays are clear and you don't have them anymore kind of thing?
So yeah, I was a brown shirt rollback, and I would just go to like PT every morning. There was a bunch of guys that were rolled for medical stuff, you know, whether it was their shoulder or some other stress fractures and stuff like that. And we'd all go over to, they had like it was like half like a medical office and then half like a PT room, and they had this treadmill in there. It was actually pretty cool. This treadmill had like this bubble around it, and you'd like slide into these like neoprene shorts, and they would inflate the bubble, and basically it took the stress off of your landing when you stepped or when you run. You know, it filled up so it's not full impact.
Yeah.
And I would do that until, you know, just to kind of keep the cardio going, and you know, and see, okay, we're gonna shrink the bubble a little bit, give you a little bit more impact. How does that feel? Okay, we'll inflate it a little bit more until, your stress fractures. It was a healing thing, It was just PT.
Like tapered anal beads, really.
Without the fun.
So you're sliding into neoprene shorts, so you're nut rubbing every other dude that's done it?
Well, I mean, you got your skivvies on underneath, but yeah, it was gross.
I did have a note about getting into a fight during an ocean swim.
Oh, yeah.
That
was fun. Yeah, so when I rolled in with 287, man, that was the that was the only class where I felt like I didn't get along with anybody. Especially just being one of the only guys to roll in. They were just I mean, I love the dudes now that made it through, and it just took me a while to kind of for them to warm up to me and me to warm up to them, but it was just a lot of nerdy shit, and I just wasn't down with the humor, and it's just weird. And one of these guys, so we shared in the cage where we kept all of our dive gear. He had a locker right above mine, and he didn't make it through. He ended up getting dropped at the end of SQT, which tells you something. But he just always had this fucking attitude problem. And I'm like, dude, you're not even a badass. You can't be popping off like that. And I mean, I didn't say that, but that's what I'm thinking. I will tear you up, boy. And so we had an ocean swim, and his swim buddy and my swim buddy both went to medical that day. And so they paired us together, and I talked to the JO. I was like, listen, man, you cannot put me with this guy. And he's like, well, why not? I was like, it's not going to be good. We hate each other, and he's like, well, you're swimming. And he's like, you'll be fine. I was like, dude, I'm telling you, bro, it's not a good idea. And he's like, you're swimming with him. I was like, all right, man, I tried to warn you. So, we do our inspections, whatever, and we go out into the surf, get past the surf zone. And I always swam on the flank, the furthest out, because I didn't want to be in the middle of the pack getting kicked in the face and starting off slow, So I would always go to the furthest, as far out in the ocean as I could. And so that's what I did. I was like, come on, let's go over here. And he's like, I'm staying here. I was like, all right, dude. I was like, I'm swimming over here. And it was 3, 2, 1, bust him. And so I start swimming, and I see him swimming towards me. I was like, yeah, motherfucker. Well, he swims up to me, and he cracks me in the face and breaks my mask.
Holy fuck.
Yeah, dude. So I lunged at him. I grabbed him by the throat, and I put him under. And then he's coming up, and I was about to take my dive knife out and just stab this dude. And then I pushed off. I was like, what am I doing? I'm like, we're on time here. This isn't good. So I pushed off, and I raised my hand. Instructor comes over on a jet ski. He's like, what's going on? I was like, my mask broke. He's like, well, you're swimming without one. I was like, check. So I just start swimming. And then the whole time we're swimming, every time I come up, he's talking shit to me. He's like, you motherfucker. He's like, fuck you. And I'm just thinking about how I'm going to rip him apart.
So you're thinking to yourself, hey, I need to chill the fuck out, even though he's talking shit. We need to just get through this, whatever. And then did he continue to talk shit the entire time until you got back in?
So, yeah, every time we came up for air, he was just jawing at me. And I'm just thinking about how I'm going to piece this dude up when the swim's over, And then we got to the 1 mile marker, and I forget exactly what happened, but basically the instructors ended up separating us. He was saying something like, I can't swim with this guy, or, we need to switch. And they're like, what the fuck is going on? And so the instructors are like, all right, this swim pair, you guys break off. You swim with Collins, you swim with Smith. So, and these guys, they're just doing their swim. They don't know what's happening. And so, we finish the swim, and when we go to report in our times, you swim pair 30, 65, 78 or whatever. So we go up to the truck, and I'm like, swim pair 12, 65, 30. And he's like, my swim buddy's like, swim pair 9, and whatever his time was. And the instructor in the truck's like, what the fuck? And so then, it gets to the proctor, and everybody finishes up the swim, and the JO who generated the swim list, he comes up to me. He's like, what the fuck happened? I was like, I told you, bro. I was like, I told you something was gonna happen. And then like right after that, they're like, oh, I see LPO, and they go running across the grinder, and then they muster us up, and then they beat us. And I think we got a letter, like the jock up letters or whatever. And I think we got like a O or a C or whatever. And then so then our proctor pulls my swim buddy and I into the office, and he's like, what the fuck happened? And he's looking at both of us, and he goes, Collins, what happened? I was like, well, the swim started, and he swam up to me and punched me in the face and broke my mask. And it just went downhill from there. And he looks at my swim buddy. He goes, is that true? And dude, this guy, you could hear the bitch in his voice. He's like, Petty Officer Collins is picking on people in the class, and nobody. And I was like, I couldn't believe what I was hearing, bro. He's like, he's a bully. I was like, this is crazy, dude. It's like, now's your chance to like be like, yeah, I punched him in the fucking face because he's an asshole, right? But I mean, he just turned into a pussy. Well, I mean, he was a pussy, and it just came through. And he's like, all right. He's like, we'll deal with this later. And then they beat the class, and then. So this is post pool comp, and that night we had a night dive, and we do the dive or whatever, and I'm like, I can't get this out of my head, and then I see him like running around the grinder with like his buddies, and they're like high fiving and like yeah, you showed him and blah 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 and this and that, and I'm like getting angrier and angrier, and I'm just like thinking about how do I handle this, and there was two dudes in the class that I was real tight with, and after the dive was over, we were hanging out, like we were getting all the gear, deconned or whatever, and they were the medical guys, and they were in the med truck, and I went up to them, I was like, what do you guys think about this? Like, I feel like I need to handle this, and I was like, I don't want to get like dropped from training or something. I was like, but I can't let this slide, and they were like, no, man, you can't let this slide. I was like, all right. And that was one thing that the proctor said to us. He was like, you two need to figure it the fuck out and then move on. And so when I talked to my buddies, they're like, yeah, you need to fucking handle it. I was like, all right, check. So, it's like 2 a.m. Everybody at this point, as long as you're with a swim buddy, you can kind of go to and from the barracks and the grinder or wherever. So where the gate is that leads to the beach, it's got like a little corner on the other side of it, and I kind of I was done with my my collaterals, and I pulled off, and I just hung in this corner, and I was just watching guys run back to the barracks, in onesie twosies and little groups or whatever, and I was just waiting for him, and he was like one of the last swim pairs to head back to the barracks, and I was like, yo, Smith, and he was like, yeah. I was like, we got unfinished business, bro. He's like, okay. And so we went up and over the berm, and I took my helmet off, I dropped my ruck, and I was like, let's do this, and we fucking threw down, and I tuned him up, and there was another guy that was kind of saw it happen, or saw me call him out, and so he was like kind of watching us. He just sat up on the berm and watched us, and just made sure we didn't kill each other. And then after that, we kind of dusted each other off and went back to the barracks. And I remember guys were on the phone with their girlfriends and shit, and just eating pizzas and hanging out. And my one buddy's on the phone, and he looks at me, and he looks at him, and he looks at me, and he looks at him. He's like, I fucking love this place. And the next day, the proctor, he saw him, and he was all green, brown, black eye. And he looks at him, he looks at me, he's like, well, I guess you all figured it out. And it was like, that was it, so it was, I'm glad, it didn't go further than that, because, with these days, he probably could have ran to the CO or somebody and cried about it, and, but I was like, I just can't fucking let that slide, man. It's like, we had a beef, and we settled it like men. It's like that was that. And
did you guys say anything to each other? Like at the end, was it like almost a kind of coming to terms, like, okay, we're cool now, or was it just more?
It was. We kind of argued a little bit afterwards. It didn't really get squashed. I mean, I got my point across, but I mean, I still didn't like the guy, and he didn't like me, and down the road, he ended up getting kicked out of training. So it was like, all right, later.
Do you know why he got kicked out?
It was something outside of like. I can't speak to it, but it was something weird that happened where he kind of like lost it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I don't know.
Yeah. It's interesting hearing even how the instructors handled it in the moment. Like, having been an instructor, my first thought was, if that had been me, like when I pulled up, I'd be like, if I see one more fucked up thing between you two, you both fucking fail.
Yeah.
Put your fucking head back down and fucking swim.
Right.
Like, I wouldn't have even been like, no, you split up. I'd be like, hey, fucking dipshits.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's surprising that they even
split us up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
it was a very weird moment because I just figured we were going to just finish the swim and then handle it after that. But he started waving down like an instructor on the jet ski, and he's like, Collins is a fucking asshole. I'm like, dude, like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I
mean, it's like the get along shirt for your kids, In fact, I mean, that would have been something afterwards, like make you guys wear a fucking quadruple extra L shirt and be in the same shirt for the rest of the fucking day or something stupid. But so, obviously you've spent more time at Buds than most. There's probably a guy or two that's spent even more time. But I'm curious, you were there in a close enough proximity where I can't imagine that it was vastly different from the first time you were there. But looking back on it and having spent 12 years in the teams and having spent a fair bit of time there, is there anything that you would change? Like if they said, hey, you're the fucking director of training, like would you approach med and performance roles and training from a general standpoint any different?
I mean, I feel like the way they had it back in like 2, 6, 4, 5, and 6 was pretty tight. I don't know, man. Like, I like the idea of having a gauntlet to go through. Instructors, they put their hands on you. Like, dudes were getting like body slammed and shit, and like, I got grabbed by the throat and like, but I was like, fuck yeah, dude. Like, this is initiation. This is like SEAL training. You know what I'm saying? And as far as like the roles and stuff, it's like, the one performance role, one medical role, I think that's fair. Maybe a case-by-case basis, like once in a while, like I'm glad I got 2 medical roles, the pneumonia and then the stress fractures. Like, I would have sucked if I got dropped for that. But again, I mean, I don't know, like standards are important, because once you start giving an inch, then it's like, well, that guy, he got hooked up, or people start bitching, and it's like when I came back, there was a guy who got rolled 6 times for performance.
6 times?
6.
When was this?
2.8. It was between 2.83 and 2.87.
How the fuck is that possible?
Well, he wasn't white.
Really? Like, you think that was
100%, because
Really?
the CO came up to us totally unprompted, didn't need to do this. He came up to a group of us in second phase, and because we had all heard about it, it's like, that guy got rolled again, and like, amongst ourselves, and totally unprompted, he came up to us and he was like, hey, I just want you guys to know that so-and-so, he didn't get performance rolled because he's black. I'm like, you just said he did. Like, by telling us that, it's like, yes, he did. And it's like, standards are standards, man. Like, keep it, you want to get women through, you want to get, whoever through, it's like, hold the fucking line, And
Did any students question him on that?
the CO?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, we didn't do it. We didn't say anything. We were just like, we were kind of taken back that he would even come up to us as like Bud students and tell us that, like just totally like unprompted. And I mean, I didn't say anything. I was like, whatever, man. Like, if that's how you want to run this ship, then you're the skipper. So
Yeah. I guess from a big picture standpoint, is there anything that you would change? Maybe not even specific to the amount of roles or whatever, but do you feel like training is the way that it should be?
Dude, I think it's great. I think that it's a pretty tight, well-oiled machine when you're holding the standards. The sleep deprivation, the cold water, the boats, the logs, like all that stuff is like, I mean, first phase, like specifically, I mean, you got to weed out the weak, straight up, and that's how you do it. And I think, I mean, I've heard rumors that, guys are required to get a minimum of a certain amount of sleep per night now, which I'm like, that's weak sauce to me. Like, I mean, the hardest part, like I said, about first phase was those first 3 weeks. Like, I remember one time I laid down for like 15 minutes, and then we had to muster on the grinder. It's like, because you're up all night, like deconning your gear, doing collaterals, making sure your helmet's buffed out, your knife sharp, like whatever it is. And it took all fucking night. And I laid down for 15 minutes. I'm like, I don't even know why I'm laying down. And then it's like back up and, on the grinder for PT or whatever. And it was just like, but like that to me, like that day to day, like just constant grind, like that's what breaks your body down. That's what breaks your mind down. And that's what like, that's where it's like, all right, am I going to quit or am I going to like suck it up?
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, I love the process. It was neat to be. I got one roll right before the island. I pinched my sciatic nerve really bad, but didn't go to medical and just failed everything after that happened. It was during a land nav. I pinched it really bad and could barely walk, and then just failed everything and got rolled. But
that sucks.
But coming back years later as an instructor, it was really neat to see both sides of it, and I remember thinking the same thing. It was just like, man, they really have this fucking wired. And there's kind of similarly, now granted this was back in 06 to 08, but I just remember thinking like, I don't think there's anything I don't know what I would change. Like it seems like they have it pretty well dialed in. But so you graduate, where did you end up going to first after graduation team-wise?
7.
Okay. And so you were there from what, 09?
No, so I didn't graduate until 2012.
Oh wow!
So it took me 6 years to get through a 1-year pipeline. It's like bananas when you think about it. And yeah, so I ended up, we graduated in March of 2012. Then we had to do like language school for like, it started out as like 3 months, and then they pushed it to 6 months for some guys. And then I checked in September of 2012.
Wow. How long were you at 7 before you started to get involved into the dog program?
So I was a 1 platooner. So I went into the team with no quals. Like I pretty much checked in and we started ULT. And then after, when we were wrapping up our deployment, they started asking the new guys, like, what schools do you want, and things like that. And honestly, it was like right place, right time kind of thing. So what had happened was, they asked all the new guys that didn't have schools, like, what schools you want to go to. And I was like, well, I want dog and I want sniper. And they're like, well, you got to pick one. And at the time, they had something going on where they had an opportunity. It was a one spot for a guy to like augment with Dam Neck as a dog guy, and it was like, I think it was either all Team 7 or all West Coast teams could like throw. You could throw your name in the hat. And originally I wanted to do that, but I'm like, I don't like those odds, like 1 out of how many dudes are, and I knew at least 3 guys in my platoon that wanted to do it. And so I was like, you know what, like, I'll do the sniper thing. And so then when I got back from sniper school, all the guys that put their name in the hat for the dog thing that were in my platoon, like none of them got picked. So they had to wait their turn to go to sniper because that's what we all want to do is either sniper or dog. So I got back from sniper school. Those guys went, and then I was like in the high bay, and somebody came down from the third deck, and they're like, "Hey, we need somebody to go to dog school." I'm like, "Right here, dude." Yeah.
Before we dive straight into the dog stuff, that first platoon in deployment at 7, was it a combat deployment?
I guess you could call it that. I mean, we went to Afghanistan, and we went on ops and stuff. I mean, it was nothing. I got shot at a little bit. Some guys got kills and stuff, but it wasn't like super hot and kinetic.
Yeah. I guess, thinking of the amount of time that you put in to make it through BUDS, and it's something that you wanted the majority of your childhood. When you first, I mean, there's kind of two sides to the coin. There's the checking in and, hey, I'm finally a SEAL, and going through the workup, and that has its own kind of magic, your first time doing it. But I'm curious, like, as you actually deployed and, like, first time your boots are on the ground, you're doing it. Like, it's like you're finally getting put in the game after years and years of fucking trying to get to this point. What was going through your head at that moment?
I loved every minute of it. It was exactly what I wanted to do, minus, stacking bodies. I mean, suiting up with the boys, playing Metallica and just getting like fired up to go out and, just go get in a fight, and it's like this is what I've been like waiting to do my whole life. It's like all I wanted to do. And I mean, it was a lot of fun, man. I wish I got to do it more,
What, was there an operation in Afghanistan that stands out as being the most dynamic or memorable in terms of getting to do good shit and feeling like you're really doing the job? Whether it's training a dog, leading a team, or building something from scratch, success isn't about having all the answers. It's about how you approach problems. That's why IDOU caught my attention. They're from the same folks behind the innovation powerhouse IDEO, and they've got online courses built for people like us. Those who want to lead well, think strategically, and stay ahead without losing the human touch. Their new AI and design thinking programs are especially relevant right now. They teach a practical and hands-on way to pair AI with real-world leadership. It's helped me think differently, and I can see how teams in any high-stakes environment could benefit. Class starts soon, so enroll today. IDOU is offering my listeners 15% off site-wide. Go to idou.com/micdrop. That's IDEOU.com/micdrop for 15% off.
I mean, like, I feel like every op we did was, I felt like I was doing the job. We would just fly in at night, get dropped off, patrol into a village, clear the village, and then post up, like stronghold it, and then kind of wait for, and we do it with the partner force, and then we just kind of wait and see like what popped off. And there was times where like there were some ops that I wasn't on that guys were just schwacking dudes, and I was like, fuck, I just missed it. And then I ended up bouncing over with a few other guys from my platoon and working with like an ODA unit for like a month and a half or 2 months, and they did a lot of like ground mobility stuff, and that place was like the Alamo, dude. I felt like we were gonna get run up on it at any time, and we would get like the base would get shot at, and then we'd grab our guns and kind of post up, and then they would just kind of scatter off. But I remember going to these briefs, and they're talking about getting hit with like V-bids, like it's like grabbing a coffee, they're like, hey, yeah, if you get hit, this is what you do. I was like, Jesus Christ, you guys are just eating it, but I don't know. I mean, the closest I ever came to like getting topped in the head myself was I remember we were posted up. We did the same old, choppered in, patrolled in, cleared the village, and then we posted up on the rooftops and just kind of set like some isolation. And I always brought binos with me just so I could kind of see like what's out there. And I was up there with two of my older guys, and one guy was on the 48. We both had 48s, and then the other guy was he was just a pea shooter. And I stood up and I'm like looking around, and I was like, man, I should probably put my helmet on. And I bent down to get my helmet, and then we just started hearing snaps like right over my head. Oh. I was like, fuck. And I started laughing. I'm like, holy shit. And then my one of the guys, he starts screaming. He's like, troops in contact, troops in contact. He's like freaking out, and the other guy just opens up. I was like, fuck yeah, dude. I was like, I didn't have a field of fire to, like, I would be cutting into his field of fire if I would have opened up. And I, as much as I wanted to, like, he had it covered. So I was like, just hold what you got. But yeah, man, I mean, it felt like a lot of just like hiking in the mountains,
Yeah.
But it was, you're staying vigilant, you're staying sharp, because you never know when it's going to pop off. But
Yeah. Did you guys have a dog with you on that deployment, or what was the catalyst for wanting to get into the dog program? Was it a dog you had growing up, or what? Like, where did it come from?
So my platoon didn't have a dog, but like my sister platoon, they did, and they were like in the next building over from us. Like they had a different like mission than we did. Like they were allowed to grow the beards and the hair and all that stuff. Like we were like clean shaven and right next to the flagpole, but we got all the missions. So, but they had a dog, and they would send their dog guy out with us. But for me, man, like to me, sniper, breacher, canines was always my top three, just because it's like it sounded sexy. Like I didn't want to do any comm stuff. I definitely didn't want to be a medic. It's like I want to do like all the, blow shit up, snipe, and then have your buddy with you.
Yeah. Obviously, sniper was the first thing that you got. You went through that, no problems.
Yeah, that was shaky too. I mean, I definitely I was on the bubble.
It seems like most guys at some point are on the bubble in that fucking school. I didn't go through it, but
I feel like every team guy should go through it, because you learn like basic frogman shit, like with stalking and camo and just like, how to veg up and move and things like that. How to, just more advanced stuff on like how to, taper your gear or whatever.
On the field craft side.
Yeah, right. It was a lot of fun, and it would have been more fun if it wasn't so stressful, But like my take on it was like, before you put on your Trident, man, if you fail something, it's like, hey man, you failed. Like it's SEAL training. It's not for everyone. It's hard, and hey, you gave it your best. But I feel like once you have that bird on your chest, man, like you cannot fail. And I was like determined, like to not be that guy, And but I came close, man. I had to like really like. I had to dig deep. Like, I was thinking about pool comp when I was taking the sniper test, because it was like I had the exact same mindset like going into it, like the second time. Like when I passed pool comp the second time, man, like I was training on the tanks, like dirt diving, like doing what I didn't do the first time, right? And same thing with the sniper, man. I was just like, all right, fucking dial in and get it done. And once I did, I mean, it was pretty chill after that. But that was definitely, it was unknown distance is what got me. And I tallied up my score at the end, just like all my stalks and tests and all that. And I averaged like an 82%. So I'm like, it takes 100% of what I've got to be an average B student, but get it done.
Yeah, so you made it through that. You come back and sounds like kind of went straight into the Canine program afterwards.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like we just missed each other there too, because I was there in 11 and 12 on the West Coast, and then so not long after you go in there, did you go right into getting paired with a dog and going through a handler course? Or
yeah.
And I'm also curious, it's changed so often, on both coasts, whether it's they're taking guys from a team and it's temporary orders there for 3 years, or they're taking a guy from a platoon and just putting him through a handler course, and then he takes the dog back to the team and then they do joint training. Like, it seems like every time I turned around, they were changing how it worked. How was it when you went through?
So So when I went through, it was a 6-week course, and you go there and you train with whatever dog you get. I had Raph. I don't know if he was there when you were there. He was another team guy had him first, and it was his dog, and he ended up being the LPO of the cell, and I was using his dog, and so it was a 6-week course, and then that was part of ProDev. And so after that, it was the way it worked was, and the way they ran it was, my job is to be over at the kennels, so the whole platoon would be doing ProDev or ULT stuff. Like, I didn't have to go to certain courses. Like I didn't have to go do the SR stuff. I didn't have to do the diving. I was just working with the dog because they were pushing, like, look, if he's going to be your dog guy, like, he needs to work with the dog for a full workup. And you use the dog in CQC, Sauk, Nyland, so those were like and then I ended up actually going to GoPlats because, I went to GoPlats, didn't have the dog for that, but, they wanted me there for the CQC stuff. So 6 weeks and then just plug in with the platoon, like where they need the dog kind of thing, which I loved it, man. I felt like the dog team was like, it was the team within the team, it's like, just a smaller group of guys. Your collateral is, training your dog is like, that's, how much more fun can you have?
Yeah.
And then, and it was cool too, cause, after I deployed with the dog, I went over there and I was an instructor there for the rest of my career, so I just kind of stayed tight with it,
How was that deployment with the dog? Where did you go? And
it was just more training. We went to the UAE. And,
oh, really?
Yeah, we had like 5 dogs there, and it was just training with the dog every day. And then towards the end of deployment, we went to Oman, and we worked with the like Omani police and like their dog unit, and we worked with them for about 2 weeks, and then put on like a literal dog and pony show for their chain of command, and showed them like what the dog can do, how it can alert, and everybody wants to see the bite and the bite suit and stuff like that. So nothing super cool like downrange or anything, but it was just cool to have a dog with you, man. You know.
What in terms of the size of the unit when you were there, how many dogs and handlers full time were there?
So there was probably four students. Like when I went through as a student, there was 3 other guys with me, and then we had anywhere between 10 and 15 dogs. But they would cycle in and out, and then we would have 2 LPOs and then a chief that kind of ran the dog team, and they would plug in with us too, and they would train the dogs too. So,
was the handler course in house, or did they send you somewhere for it?
It was in house.
And just some of the guys ran it, or the trainers there?
So the trainers set up like they help set up certain scenarios, and they help with the bites and stuff. But like the team guys were the ones that like ran the course. And actually, when I became an instructor over there, I worked with my chief and the other SO1 that was there with me, and we came up with a foolproof 7-week curriculum on because we're like, look, this is all kind of shoddy. It's like, hey, we're going to go to North Island, or we're going to go to Miramar, and we're going to run some routes. And then, it's like, oh, well, we can't get on base. Or it was just like weird stuff. Or it's like, oh, the dog needs to take a break, so you're going to work with this dog. It's like, okay, look, we need to tighten this up, And so we came up with like a 7-week course for new students to go through.
Can you, I guess, kind of briefly break down that course?
So it was like the first first week or 2 is like getting to know your dog, like leading them, doing all the commands with them, and it's all slick, you're not like in plates or helmets or anything like that, not carrying any weapons, just like getting to know your dog, teaching them how like to read behavior and changes and things like that, and then start introducing the odors and the bites, putting them in the bite suits, and then towards the end we have like FTXs that they did at night. We went to they have a police station over by the San Diego airport that we would do like a 3-day like FTX, just like 3 nights in a row. Just go out and we're gonna run you through a scenario, and we want to see how you prosecute it, and how you break it down, and then tell us why. And it was, the pass fail part was more for the odor. But everything else was kind of like, hey, you're in a stack with a dog, and you entered this room and you did this, and now what are you gonna do, right? So because we were limited on bodies, so guys, and we couldn't put the students together like for a scenario because they all had to run it, So it's like, hey, he's your 2-man, you go into a room and it's on. So. I mean, it was as tight as we could get it with like the limited resources we had, but I mean, we got good feedback on it from the students, and and even from like we'd have like the chiefs or whatever from these guys' platoons come out and watch the training, and they're like, okay, like this guy is not just fucking off across the street, because the dog teams, man, it got a lot of flack. It's like, oh, you guys don't do any work over there. It's like, actually, guys, we do more work because, not every platoon had a dog. Yeah. Sometimes it was like a troop gets a dog, or just a team gets a dog. So you have dog scenarios. So we're doing multiple FTXs out at an island with the dog to satiate that appetite for the dog training.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I remember kind of similar to how it's structured is that there were periods where it was a very competitive billet, where like really good dudes were there, and then there were other times where it was almost like
send the shitbags.
Yeah, like you're just barely good enough not to have your Trident pulled, and we can't get rid of you. Well, fucking send them to the dog team then, so we don't have to fucking deal with them. It's like it's such an inconsistent program that way, which is heartbreaking because, as you well know, I mean, it's not like, if you think about the integration of any type of weapon system, and I would put a dog technically into that category, it's inanimate, and like you can introduce a new sniper platform to a team, or a new rib, or a new fucking parachute, or a new mobility vehicle. I mean, pick something.
Right.
And they can pick that up fairly quick and integrate it, and it's pretty seamless. Or even if you were to say, like, well, diving hasn't been our bread and butter, can we pick that back up and get competent enough at it? Yes, it's more similar to the dog team in that, like, if the SEAL teams did no combat swimmer for 10 years and then tried to start it back up again, there'd be some steep fucking learning curves of getting guys back to where they're competent with it. But because it's a living, breathing animal and there's so much psychology involved and a lot of nuance dog to dog, that's where I see probably the biggest failure with any unit, whether it's police departments, military, special operations, whatever, is not keeping subject matter experts there for the long haul and keeping a canine program with enough knowledge base there to keep it rolling forward competency-wise.
Yeah, man.
I'm curious, have you kept tabs with kind of where it is now? I know they moved the kennel down to the new base down south and whatever, but it sounds like it's almost fizzled out.
Yeah, man. I didn't even know they moved the kennel. Actually, no, I did know that because a buddy of mine, Army dude, his wife is she's in the Army too, and she's like the lead vet tech over there. And I guess it fizzled out on the East Coast. Some CO had like a vendetta against it, and they all but shut it down. And it looks like it's moving that way on the West Coast too, which I don't know if it's a budget thing or a lack of, like like the war scene, you know, we don't, like there's not a need for the dog, they think, but it's like, dude, I mean, that's the problem is everything is like reactive. It's not proactive, you know, and it's like you said, like how do you stay up on it? And it just like it sucks because the dog is such a great tool, and it's like, and it, you know, I had buddies that I went through the training with that actually went to Iraq, and they were like, this dog just saved our asses because he was alerting to a high odor, and sure enough, it was a fucking remote IED, and they had to, you know, avalanche the fuck out of there.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's really no different than saying like, oh, hey, you know, we're not in any active combat, so let's shut sniper school down.
Right.
You know, but if a war breaks back out, we'll just, you know, we'll start that back up. It's like it's not that simple, you know. And I would say the dog team is even more complicated because there's the dog aspect. It's not an inanimate object, and it is really disheartening. I think to your question, I think it's a combination of that. Is that, well, there's no need for them operationally right now at a high enough level to justify it, coupled with we're always trying to find ways to not save money, but spend it somewhere else, you know, because they don't ever fucking save money.
Well, it seems like that whole dog thing is a racket anyway, you know, like from what I've seen, because the dog can't tell you what's wrong with it, you know, like if it doesn't, you know, I've been on like buy trips where, you know, they showcase the dog and like, look what he can do. He can do this, he can do that. And you're like, oh, okay, well, what's he not good at? And then you don't find that out until later. Yeah. And it's like, and then he washes out.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that I noticed, you know, being over, I guess having the luxury, I would say, of being both in the industry from a purveyor standpoint of selling dogs to units, you know, like a SEAL team, Canine Program, but then also being a trainer there and understanding, you know, kind of the realities of both sides. And, you know, to me, the really only answer is that you have to have, I would say, at least one person, but ideally multiple people in every program that's a standalone entity that's not being directed by big whatever, whether it's Army, DOD, or, I mean, whatever, even on the law enforcement side. But the guys who are actually doing the selecting and the actual foundational fundamental training, like those guys have to be world-class subject matter experts in dogs.
Yeah.
All right, listen up. You know that moment when you cut into a steak so tender, so perfectly marbled, you pause mid-slice just to appreciate it? That's what Heartland Steak Company delivers. Premium, Midwest raised beef shipped straight to your front door. And I will tell you this, they sent me a box and I was blown away. I threw a couple of ribeyes on the grill out back, reverse seared them just like I always do, and it was hands down some of the best damn steak I've had outside of a ranch cookout in Texas. Clean, rich flavor, no gristle, no weird aftertaste, just quality Midwest beef the way it should be. You can stock up with a custom box or go with one of their grill-ready bundles. Either way, you're getting top-tier cuts, and they don't mess around. So here's the deal. $25 off any order of $175 or more with the promo code MICDROP, that's all caps, all one word, at checkout. Great steak isn't complicated. Heartland Steak Company has the cuts. You just need to fire up the grill. Visit heartlandsteakco.com and don't forget, promo code MICDROP, all caps, all one word, is going to get you $25 off. They don't need to have an ounce of operational experience, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know, and that was an argument that I found myself having with some of the higher ups when I was there, because my company held the contract for it, and I was also there as a trainer. And you know, the guys that I wanted to bring into the fold weren't SEALs. You know, didn't have combat deployments, and they're like, well, we need guys with Tridents, you know, that have been to war, blah, blah. And I was like, we already have those guys. You need guys that can get dogs to do whatever that you want them to do in any capacity, and just have the guys that know what they need the dogs to do to work with them to do that together. Because this is not a knock on any law enforcement or military handlers and trainers, but most of them aren't high-level trainers.
Right.
You know, you can be a great handler and not that great of a trainer.
Right.
you really can't be a great trainer without understanding how to handle a dog at a high level. You know, you may not have real world experience letting a dog go bite a guy for real or find a real IED cache, but because training is no different than the real world for the dog, I'm not going to say it doesn't matter, but it kind of doesn't matter.
Right.
You know, and again, you can always lean on the operational guys. Like if I was in charge of a program, I would rather have the perfect guys training wise in that position than the guys with the credentials and resume from a combat experience standpoint, because that isn't going to help you train the dog.
Yeah.
And that was one of my biggest frustrations in being there. And my point in that is that, you know, on the buy trip thing or whatever, is that, again, as somebody who's been on buy trips both as a trainer for, you know, special operations canine programs as well as a business owner, where I know if I fuck this selection up, that's fucking me over financially.
Yeah.
Is that if there's a problem in this dog that I can't identify and I find it 4 weeks later when I'm back in the United States with him, that's thousands of dollars coming out of my pocket. And so to me, when you're in that position, like it forces you to throw absolutely fucking everything. I mean, you only have to get burnt once to realize, okay, the next time I go select a dog in the Netherlands, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I want to see how he responds. Like, you're going to throw all kinds of shit at this dog. And I will say on the other end of the spectrum, you know, the guys that are showing you their dogs, they're not fucking dumb.
Right.
If they see a guy or a unit show up with a guy who's doing the selecting that doesn't know what the fuck he's looking at, hey, go grab fucking Smokey and bring him out, because we can't sell him to somebody that knows what they're doing. And so if you put those dogs through the paces, they can tell in 2 fucking minutes if you know what you're looking at or not, and they're not going to bring you the JV shit. They're going to say, okay, this guy's fucking, he knows what he wants. Get the fucking varsity dog out here and show him, because I ran into that early on where, you know, we would bring dogs in and I was like, fuck, how did I not see this, you know? And again, if it's Uncle Sam's checkbook that you're stroking checks from, you know, there's far less on the line than when my family's not going to eat if I fuck this up, you know? And so I think that's the biggest disconnect, is that, you know, when it comes to the actual acquisition part of dogs, is that you have to have somebody who is a world-class decoy that understands the natural forward aggression component in a dog and whether it's there or not, and knowing really, really well how to actually test it. But then also in every other category, environmental, nerve, sociability, temperament, prey drive, hunt drive, all the different contexts that they're going to need to display that. And if you don't have somebody that knows all of that shit at a really high level, you're going to wind up with a very inconsistent dog program. And I see that everywhere.
Yeah.
Did you run into a lot of that? Or
I mean, I agree with everything you're saying. And I feel like when I was over there, we had really good trainers, and that was the thing, is like, these trainers, they don't know shit about ops, you know? It's like, that's why we have the team guy, LPO, and chief here to run them through, you know, the training program, you know, as it is. But it's like, the trainer's job is to select the dogs, pair them up as best they see fit with whatever student, you know, and try to get that bond going. And then, you know, show them how to do like the basic stuff, show them how to do the behavioral stuff or whatever. It's like, you know, half the time we were training, it was just like taking dogs out on routes and, you know, and bite work and stuff like that. And then when you got that down, or you've got like a good, you know, bond with your dog, and you can recognize those changes in behavior, then we're going to start, you know, implementing the team guy scenarios, you know. Yeah. So I feel like we cycled through some trainers, but I feel like for the most part, everybody that we had was pretty good. Yeah. But it's a shame, man, because it's like, it's such an asset, and like, people just don't appreciate it, you know, and it sucks.
Agreed. Is there a story or a few stories from your entire time there that are memorable, that are worth sharing?
So, yeah. So I got paired with Tyson. Was he there when you were there?
No, but he was the one that ended up losing his life, right?
Yeah. So he was my dog. Mike, I forget his last name. He had him before, so it was like Mike and Tyson, and he really wanted that dog, because when we were going through the whole deal was if you get a brand new dog, when that dog retires, you get first dibs on him. And to me, that's fair. And it's since changed, and I'm not a fan of it. But anyway, Mike ended up being one of the team guys that was over there when I was going through the training, and because I went through like 3 dogs. Like Raph got retired, then I got a new dog, and I went to the buy, just to kind of see how it went down, and they picked this dog, and his name was in the book, and he was awesome. I was like, this dog's the shit, and he's fun, and he's playful, but he's got a strong bite, he's got good odor detection, like everything you want in the dog, but he had bad hips. And it's like, so he got washed out. And then I got stuck with Tyson, and I fucking hated him when I first got him, because he was the alpha among all the alphas. It was him and Duke, which Duke got to a point where like you could
Dutch Shepherd?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was one dog that we selected when we were there.
Yeah, he was
Fucking
badass. Monster.
Yeah.
But like it got to a point where he was biting his handlers.
Well, I wouldn't say it got to that point. It was always that way. I actually have a funny story about him. His real or full name was Dukas. Everybody called him Duke. But it's like a 95-pound Dutch Shepherd. So when we first brought him in, we were in Alabama running our handler course at the time. Auburn had it was called the CDRI, the Canine Detection Research Institute, and had a bunch of really, really high-level, like olfactory specialists in all different types of disciplines. But it was such a neat kind of collaboration because they had a ton of resources, both kind of scientifically or lab-oriented, lots of specialists, lots of training grounds and resources and assets. And so we ran our first handler course out of there, and Dukas was one of those dogs in that very first handler course. And I remember the very first time I met him, we were staying at like a Holiday Inn in Anniston. And, he was in his room with his handler. Chris was his name, his first handler. Yeah. And so I walk in the room because, he had just gotten in or whatever, and like the hotel had free pizza night or whatever. And so I had this fucking paper plate with like 3 pieces of pepperoni pizza. I walk in, and Dukas just eye fucks me for a second, trots over, jumps up, and bats the fucking plate out of my hand, falls on the ground, and he just starts, like he's starving to death eating. And I started to reach down. I was like, now, you know what? I'm not going to fucking try to take the fucking pizza from this dog right now.
Smart.
And, it was just one of those like immediate, like, no, you know what? That's probably not the fucking best idea. And he was. I would say to count on one hand the top 5 hardest biting dogs I've ever worked. He's absolutely in that category.
Dude.
That motherfucker could close his mouth, unlike most dogs. Just and detection wise was a fucking absolute specimen too.
Yeah.
He was just. He was a lot of fucking dog, especially for a first time handler and for that application. But again, like if I had to have a five dog all-star list of if I had to go kick doors in overseas, like he'd absolutely be a dog I'd pick for that.
Sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Like he ended up going with a guy that was like, he'd been around a while and it ended up like ripping a chunk out of him.
Yeah.
And, but we didn't even know that the guy got bit because he was just super chill about it. He's like, yeah, I probably should go get checked out. I was like, what? He's like, the shirt's ripped and he's like bleeding out. He's like, yeah, he bit me. But we actually, because that guy was my roommate and he stayed with me for a while, and we would bring Duke home, and he did the same thing to him. He like knocked a plate full of chicken wings out of his hand, and he ate it bone and all, just scarfed down.
Must have been his go-to move, I guess.
Yeah, right? He knows good food, dude.
Yeah.
But so Duke was, I'd say Duke, Tyson, and then we had a couple other dogs that, they were all like legit. But I feel like the thing with Tyson is he would cage fight like other dogs. Like, so he had to be in like isolation,
Yeah.
So he was in the indoor kennels, like away, like he didn't have dogs next to him or anything like that. He did like parkour, man, because he would bounce off the walls and then get up, like, so in the indoor kennel, I'm sure like the cinder blocks go up to about, shoulder level, and then it's all like cage above that. Well, he would just jump up onto the cinder blocks with this much room, and he have all 4 paws on this. I've got pictures of it, of him just like standing. He was like a billy goat, It was awesome. But he was such an alpha dog that I was like constantly having to just lay the hammer down on him. And it was just like, he wouldn't like lay down all the way. He would just kind of hover. And I'm like, no, dude, like we're not going anywhere until you're completely like hips rolled over and you're just down, And it's just like, but he was a good dog, and his odor detection was legit. His bite was strong. And, so one time we were doing a route at North Island, and it was just like, we were slick, just wearing like, cool pants and, fucking contractor flannels or whatever, just taking the dogs out on a chill route. And it was like a 1.5 mile route, but it was a hot day, and we had the trailer. It was all air conditioning and everything for the dogs, and I had just finished the route with Tyson, and he was just like smoked, like tongue out to the side, just breathing heavy, and so I got him some water, and I was trying to get him back into the kennel, but what I had done was I took off the e-collar and the choke because I just wanted to cool him off a little bit, so I had no control over him, and I didn't have a toy on me. I don't know why I didn't have a toy on me. I think because I kept it in like a dump pouch, and I didn't have a toy on me, so I was fucked really, because this dog had a mind of his own, and then I see my buddy finishing up his route with his dog, and I was like, oh shit, like I got to get this dog in the kennel before he keys up on him, and then we got a whole new set of problems we got to deal with. So I try to get him in the kennel, and then he climbs underneath of the trailer to just kind of cool off in the shade. I was like, shit. So I'm like, come on, buddy, trying to entice him out or whatever. And then I reached under, and I just kind of I reached under, I went to grab his paw just to kind of tug him out. And I saw his lip curl, dude, and I saw that fang, and he just snatched my hand up, and then he starts tugging me under, and I was like, fuck. And so I'm pulling out, and he got me right on the thumb.
It's like when you see those people at lion exhibits sticking their finger through the fence.
Yeah. So after I kind of came to my senses, I was like, he probably had me for a good 3-4 seconds, and then training kicked in. I was like, okay, reach behind and grab him and sink him into the bite. Well, when I went to reach, he spit this hand out, and then he tagged this hand. And it wasn't as deep of a bite. I still got scars, and I actually got pictures of him. My whole thumb is just hanging out, and but I got him into the trailer, and he was he was happy after that. But I couldn't do anything because both my hands were chewed up, and so I had to go get stitched up and wrapped up and all this, and I remember feeling that pressure too. You feel it through a bite suit, but when you get tagged on your skin and your bone, it's oh fuck, he could have crushed me.
Oh yeah,
my hand. If I had a fist, my hand would have been just shattered.
Yeah, I had a dog a little over a year ago now. One of the retired Warrior Dog Foundation dogs bit my forearm, and his fucking tooth broke off inside of it, and I didn't know it at the time. I went and got it flushed out and sewed up and whatever, and about 2 weeks goes by, and it's just super swollen and fucking infected and huge, and I was like, dude, something's fucked up, and so I went back in, and they did an ultrasound to see, because they're like, something's fucked up, before we open it back up, let's look, whatever, and they're like, something's in there. So they open it back up, and they start digging around or whatever, and they pull out this fucking chunk of tooth that's been in there for the last 2 fucking weeks. But
did you keep the tooth?
I did. Yeah. Yep. I was actually thinking of putting it in a knife handle and doing an auction item for Warrior Dog for it or something.
That'd be sick.
But anybody that's been around these dogs in any kind of capacity for more than about fucking 2 hours, getting bits kind of like firefighter getting fucking burnt, it's just a matter of time. But obviously, like, you were able to stay there for a long time and then ultimately spend the rest of your career there, which is a pretty awesome opportunity and seems like kind of a dream gig. At what point did you kind of decide, okay, I'm done with the SEAL teams and now I want to transition out? How much of being at the dog program played any role in that, and kind of walk us through the transition?
So 2017, Team 3, they sent their guys over to go through the training. It's like the dogs are just like serialized, guns, you just turn them over to the next guy. And same thing, Tyson got turned over to another handler. And, he went through the training. He made it through, deployed with Tyson. They went to Iraq. And in November of 2017, Tyson got killed.
Do you know the full details on that, and can you share that story?
Yeah, so I was in church with my wife, and I left my phone like in the car, and I had like a weird feeling, and like all throughout the sermon, and it wraps up. I go out to my car, and I've got like a bunch of missed calls, bunch of text messages, and I open up my phone, and they're like, Tyson got killed. I was like, fuck. And so end up going into work to like, we don't know the specifics, but he got killed on an op. And so once we kind of, started, we started figuring out what to do next. It was like, okay, well, they need a dog. They've been overseas for 3 months. They got into like a firefight near the Flot. It's kind of all we knew. And like, well, they need another dog. So up to this point, and this is what I loved about being a canine handler, and this is what I loved about being like a Trident instructor, is like, I feel like the dog made me a better operator. It made me a better shooter, because when you're training with the dog, right, not only do you have to be aware of blue force picture, red force picture, what's going on your comms, like, you're paying attention to the dog too. Like, is he keying up on something? Am I pulling him off of something that he's trying to like alert me to? And then when you don't have the dog, it's like, all right, we're going to do another scenario, but kennel the dog. I felt like everything slowed down, and I was like, okay, like, I kind of like the toilet paper tubes get a little bit bigger, like my aperture gets bigger, and I'm like, all right, I got this. Now I'm just an E5 shooter in the stack. And what was cool about that is I got to go to different teams and train with different troops and platoons with a dog, and I got more training. Like, I went out to Nyland like 3 times in one ULT just because they needed a dog for my ULT plus this other platoon and this other platoon and this other troop. So I was like constantly getting more training, which to me, I'm like, if I'm not going to be fighting in Afghanistan anymore, then at least like let me get the reps in, and so before Team 3 left, the CMC told Trident, they're like, hey, if you want to send any guys downrange, if you got any bodies to spare, we'll take them. So after Tyson got killed, I'm like, all right, this is my opportunity. It's like, I was coming up on my time at Trident, and the game plan was, I talked to my chief and I talked to the CEO of Trident, and so like the head shed knew about this. It was like, hey, you're going to deploy with Team 3 with this dog, Boris, and you're going to be their dog guy, and then you'll redeploy with them in 3 months. You'll come back, check out a Trident, and stay with Team 3. Like, that was like the career path. And everyone, chief, CO, everybody signed off on it. And from what I understood, everyone at Team 3 knew about this too. So I packed my shit, like all my gear, I had my weapons suites, had everything for Boris. And that's the thing too, is like, these dogs aren't just sitting around when they don't have handlers. Like, we're training these dogs every day. So I've been training with Boris every day, and like I know when he's keying up. I know the dog, right? So shoot overseas, go to Germany for a little bit, and then end up kind of, pushing out to Iraq. And when I show up at the fob that these guys are at, I am greeted by like a little half circle of the handler, Tyson's handler, and two chiefs. And they're like, who the fuck do you think you are coming over here like you're going to take my spot as the dog guy? I was like, what are you talking about?
This must have been an East Coast handler or,
West.
I mean, one of your guys?
Yeah.
So he's talking to you that way?
Yeah.
I mean, he's a subordinate of yours, right?
Right. I put him through training. Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, bro? I'm like, everybody knows, everybody signed off on this, that I'm not here to just deliver a dog. Like, I'm deploying. Like, I've got my shit.
I mean, to me, that only makes sense from a continuity standpoint. Like, you've been working with the dog.
Exactly. And it was like a back and forth for like 20 minutes. They're like, no. And I'm like, no. Like, look, you guys, your fucking dog's dead, right? And you haven't worked with this dog. You don't know how he works. You don't know how he operates. Like, I'm here to be the dog guy, right? And that's that. And it got real weird, and I was like, all right, check it out. Like, I'm gonna put you through a route, and we're gonna see how you do with this dog, right? Because I'm not just turning over a dog to anybody that can't read him, doesn't know how to work with him, and then God forbid something else happens where guys get killed or the dog gets killed again. It's like I'm not living with that, and you shouldn't be wanting to do that either. Like, that's not. Like, you should be like, yeah, man, like, let's go. And what happened to this? Like, hey, send your guys over. Anybody that wants to deploy. It's like, I'm here, man. I've got my shit. Like, let's do this. And so I ended up setting up a route, and I had a low, a medium, and a high hide. I mean, I wasn't trying to fuck them. I was like, let's just see like what you got, as a dog handler here. And the dog alerted to every odor. And he didn't pick up on any of them. Completely 0 out of 3. And the chiefs, I showed the chiefs like, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is where it's going. Pay attention. And so then afterwards, they were like, well, we're still keeping the dog, and you're on the next flight out of here. And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, this is like somebody else needs to know about this, because this is not like, this is a liability at this point. It's like. You missed all the odor. You've never worked with this dog. It's clear as day, and I'm here to run it, and you're fucking putting me on a flight.
Was there a justification on their part of saying this is why it makes sense? Did you ask that? Yeah,
I was like, well, yeah, I did. I was like, what's the thought process behind this? They're like, well, he's our dog guy. I was like, all right, well, clearly he doesn't know how to run this dog. I was like, it's like me giving you a fucking gun that you've never shot and telling you to, go take sniper overwatch. It's like, why would you do that? And like, well, we'll figure it out. We'll work with him. We'll train him. I'm like, so I reached back out to my chief. I'm like, yo, this is what's going on. And he's like, fuck them, man. He's like, if they don't want you, to just come on back. I was like, Jesus Christ, dude. It took me like a week and a half to get here. I've got all my shit. Like, now I'm just going to like hop on a bird and go home. Like, and it was like that to me was like the catalyst to getting out. And I was like, because, your CMC says send dudes that want to go. It's like, I'm here, bro. I'm like ready to get in the game. Like this is, like, my CO signed off on it. My chief signed off on it. Like, what the fuck, man? And it got to a point where I'm like, man. And then I got the debrief about what happened to Tyson. And the story goes that, they were in this tick, and they were trying to get off the X, and they were in these RGs. And I think there was like 3 or 4 team guys in this one RG. You got your driver, you got your dude riding shotgun, and then 2 other guys. One of them was the handler, and Tyson was in the back, and they took a fucking rocket right into the back, and it hit Tyson and just turned him into barbecue. They said like from the collar down, he was just like charred, and then they got slammed with another rocket, and Tyson's body fell out of the RG. And the partner force actually were the ones that went back and got him and brought him. And these guys didn't even go back and get him. I don't know if it's because they were getting shot off the X or what, but this leave no man behind shit is like, you know, that includes our dogs, you know? Like, we don't send dogs to their deaths. So the partner force picked him up and brought him to the guys, and, you know, they burned his body and, you know, gave him like a little Viking funeral. But I ended up going home, and I went through my dog bag, and I got like a clump of Tyson's fur, and I brought it over to Beto at Half Face, and I told him, hey man, like, can you make me a knife with this shit? And I was like, I want it red, white, and blue, and with the handle, you know, red, white, and blue. So he's got like some giraffe bone and some turquoise, and then right in the handle here is his fur, and then on the knife itself, I got his face engraved.
Yeah, that's cool. Can you hold that up for this camera?
Yeah. So there's his fur.
Yeah, that's super cool.
And then there's his face.
That's amazing. And
I took that picture of him. I was like, I had a toy, and I was trying to get him to speak, and you know, he was just like barking hard, and I was like, yeah, that's the picture I want on this knife. And it's all, you know. It's like, it makes me glad that I've got the scars on my hands now, you know? It's like something to remember him by.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, man, after that shit, I came back to the team, and, you know, I explained what happened, and then it got weird after that, and they started trying to come after me for shit, and they're like, well... So I had started an apparel company with another team guy, buddy of mine, and I didn't put in a chit for it or whatever. So they tried to get me, like, because of this whole thing, it turned into like just a catalyst for like, well, what's up with Collins? Why don't these guys want him? And they're like, oh, well, you know, I think he's got like a T-shirt company, and it's like, well, let's look into that. Did you put in a chit for it? You're now you're moonlighting. I'm like, this is what this is turning into. Like, it went from like, a dog got killed, and I'm going over here to deploy with these dudes to be their dog guy and, you know, do the job, to now you want to like try to burn me for something like that. Like, okay, I'll do it. I'll put a chit in, like, and it got real weird. And I remember it was Bobby Ramirez was the CEO, rest in peace. And I remember telling him like the whole story, and he sat there, and I spoke for like 20 minutes, and he didn't interrupt me. He just listened to, you know, pretty much everything I just told you. And he's like, you need to get a lawyer. I was like, all right. So now I'm coming off of like my dog getting killed, me getting kicked out of the country, and now I got a lawyer up for a fucking, you know, T-shirt company, because now like the chain of command's coming after me. And I was like, dude.
Fuck the Navy.
Fuck the Navy, bro. Like, and you know, it's funny. People, like, I've done other podcasts where I've talked about this, like, not as deep as this, but, you know, you shouldn't read the comments, but sometimes I get a kick out of it, and people are like, oh, this guy's got a bad attitude, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, dude, if you only knew how the Navy works, I mean,
yeah.
It's so ass backwards, and it's like, you know, and it's the other thing, too. It's like, when we don't have an enemy to fight, like, we're cannibals, and we'll eat each other.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the whole thing, I mean, so if they're asking for guys, as many guys as you can spare to go help fight, and you fucking volunteer to replace a dog that unfortunately got killed, and I want to be clear, like, I'm not disparaging his handler. I don't know him. I mean, I don't know if I know him. I don't know who it was. I can certainly put myself in his shoes, as well as his leadership shoes. Again, to be fair, if I remove myself entirely, which is easy for me to do, probably not so easy for you to do, but I can understand, dude, my dog just got killed, like, I need to stay in the fight. I can understand his desire to want to do that. I can also understand his leadership's empathy towards that. What I don't understand and can't wrap my mind around is the leadership, while being able to empathize with that, or not condoning, but like allowing that emotion to drive an operational decision that just does not make sense
At all.
at all. Like, because again, I mean, to me, the sniper thing I think is a great analogy. Like, it's a weapon system you've never used in your life. Yes, you're a sniper, but go up on that fucking building, and now our guys' lives are on your shoulders of being able how to figure that fucking thing out on the fly. Like, that's just dumb.
Yeah.
I understand, again, like the desire to want to do all of those things. I just think it's a bad decision. But the frustrating part for me, I mean, I've been out for longer than I was in now at this point. I got out in 08, but I've heard so many fucking stories, whether it's Eddie Gallagher, whether it's, I mean, they're fucking pick one. There's a bunch of them of just like moronically fucking bad decisions being made by our leadership, that just defy fucking logic, and it's like, are you guys trying to get good dudes to fucking leave? Because that's how you do it.
Dude, and guys are leaving in waves, bro.
Yeah, and to me, it's like, it's not like you were trying to not go fight a war.
Right.
Like, you went over there,
Yeah.
like, voluntarily to help out, and then they're like, well, let's see what we can get on this guy to get him to shut the fuck up. Like, I don't, what part of that makes sense?
Dude, I still, like, I had to, like, let it go because it was like, it was just kind of like keeping me up at night. And then, and so now I'm like prepping for these DRBs, and I'm standing in front of a bunch of chiefs, which, by the way, like, no one likes to rip into a SEAL more than somebody that's not a SEAL, but is a chief, and they want to sit there and they want to like tell you what they think. I'm like, motherfucker.
Who are these guys?
Well, one of them was a senior chief at Trident, some chick that's married to a team guy, so now she thinks that she's got a say, and all these people that are chiefs in the Navy, they want to be on a disciplinary review board to rip a SEAL, and it's like, and they're the ones that talk the most. Like, all the team guys are sitting there like, and I'm looking at them, and they are looking at me like, yeah, we know. It's
That's
like,
also fucking retarded.
Retarded, dude. It's like, why are they here?
Yeah, why are
you don't wear a Trident? Like, why are you in here? But everybody wants to have their say, and it's like, okay, man, like, I think this party's over, and that's kind of the point I got to where I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm not going to be the last man at the bar looking for the fat chick. Like, I'm out, dude. And then everybody gets pissed off, like, well, why are you leaving, man? Why are you getting out? And it's like, dude, like, I'm done. Like, I had, at that point, that was like spring of 2018, and I was coming up. October would have been when I needed to re-enlist. So it was 12 years. I did 11 years, 11 months, and 29 days, and I was like, and it's shit or get off the pot time. It's like, are you gonna do the full 20, or I'm past the halfway point, but I mean,
Yeah, I was in the same boat. I did 12 and a half, and
Yeah.
to me, it's like, once you hit 12, it's like, if you're going to get out, motherfucker, you need to get out now. Or you got to decide to do the full 20. There's not really an in-between. But
I got the same, like butterflies in my stomach and, like, the gut feeling about getting out that I did when I saw that dude walk by me at Hollywood Video, and I knew that I was going to go join. So that's kind of like, I was reading off my gut, and I was like, you know what, man? Like, let's just pull the Band-Aid off and, enjoy the freedom,
And so you get out, and then that's a whole different process of reinvention, of assimilating into normal society, of, finding your why. It's a big point of contention, I think, for most, especially combat veterans, when they get out to figure out the 2.0 version of themselves. Did you struggle with that, and what did all that lead to, and can you kind of walk us through that whole transition process?
I'm still struggling, brother. I mean, like I said, dude, I've always wanted to be a SEAL. I felt like, in Buds, I'll never forget, the first time I went through in 264, one of the senior chiefs is like, like, at Buds, like, we don't make SEALs, we find them. And I'm like, fuck yeah, dude. Like, that's me. And so getting out, it's like, you don't wear the uniform, you don't have the bird anymore. It's like, I mean, I feel like in my soul, like a team guy. But, so figuring it out, I kind of took the first year just to break off. Like, I didn't want to have anything to do with Tridents, Bone Frogs, Team Guys, none of it. I just wanted to get as far away from it as possible. And that was the other thing too, man, is I was dating my now wife at the time, and we'd been together for a couple years, and I told myself, like, I'm never going to get married or have kids while I'm in the teams. Like, I'm just not going to do it because, you know, I can't deploy and, you know, not see my kids grow up or, you know, grow like estranged from my wife or any of that stuff. And I mean, I know guys do it and good on them, but that I could never do it. So, and it was getting to a point where it's like, with my wife, it's like, you know, we were on track to get married. And so I actually we got married after I decided to get out in the spring. We got married in early summer of 2018. And so I just spent that first year, it was just me and her, you know, just growing together. And
Where did you move? Or
I
did
didn't.
you stay? You stayed there?
Yeah, she's from San Diego, and I told myself I'm never leaving San Diego. Like,
So you're still there?
yeah. These libtards are gonna have to fucking run me out of there. Like, I'm not going anywhere, dude. I'm holding my ground. So yeah, I took a year off, and then a buddy of mine who's still active. He's like a, you know, big networker guy, and he met a dude at the gym who. He ran the combat skills department for EOD over in Point Loma, and so I got hooked up with that, and I started talking to him, and it was, you know, because after a year I was just like, man, like I miss the boys, I miss like the camaraderie and all that stuff, like I miss shooting and hanging out with you know, my people. So I got this job working. It was a contract for the Navy, teaching EOD guys how to shoot, move, and communicate at a basic BUDS, like 3rd phase level. You know, some guys had never touched a gun, some guys had done multiple NSW deployments, but, you know, it was all just, you know, CAT tests and, you know, like op standards, and then, you know, we would have other courses where we did like more advanced stuff, like, you know, shoot, move, and communicate, and, you know, SALC stuff, Nylon type stuff, CQC stuff. So that was cool, and I did that for about 4.5 years and got pretty good at shooting, pretty good at instructing, because, you know, I was an instructor for the last 2.5 years in the Navy, and then rolled right into this. I got my, what is it, like the 9502 or whatever, that, you know, says that you're like certified instructor, and so did this job for a little while, and it was cool, man. I mean, like, I learned a lot more as an instructor than I did as a student, and which I love. And then, yeah, that contract dried up a year ago, and I saw, like, I kind of know when to jump ship, because, you know, 2018, I got out of the Navy, and everyone's like, "What are you gonna do?" I'm like, "I don't know, man, but I'll figure it out." And, you know, then COVID hits and shit gets weird in the Navy. I'm like, glad I missed that. And then same thing with this job, is like, it was good while it was good, and then it started getting weird, and I saw the writing on the wall, and I started looking for a job. One of my mentors was like, you know, the best time to look for a job is when you have a job. So I started throwing my feelers out there, and another team guy buddy of mine, he went through Beyond the Brotherhood, and Jimmy May hooked him up with my boss now, Greg McClelland, who is, he's a union iron worker, and he's on the California Ironworker Employers Council, like Top Dog, Western Steel Council, and he's a true patriot. He loves team guys, and, you know, he was like cold calling, like, you know, the Honor Foundation and, you know, Beyond the Brotherhood, like, hey, if you guys have, you know, dudes that are out of the Navy that, you know, are looking for work, like, I'll take them. You know, I can train a guy how to do this stuff. So, so yeah, I got hooked up with a gig over there, and I'm their safety director, and yeah, I just check in on job sites, make sure guys are, you know, tied off and hitting all the wickets to make sure they're not getting hurt or killed. And a lot of it's like the Navy, you know. He actually translated my resume to be like super safety heavy. He's like, this guy worked with, you know, heavy weapons and canines, and he's worked on a range as an RSO. Like he knows the safety piece, so he was able to sell that to his board. And yeah, I left the combat skills job 2 months before the contract dried up.
Wow.
And then just kind of rolled right into this, and I've been doing this for about a year now, and it's cool, man. I mean, Greg's super chill, and Mario was there too, and he's got a nonprofit called Wing Shooters, and he takes veterans out on hunts. He just took a team guy to Hawaii, and they were shooting deer, and I've gone to Northern California and done some dove hunts with them. Actually going to do one here Labor Day weekend, and just a lot of wing shooting and stuff like that. So I feel like I landed in a pretty good spot. Like, I mean, at the time, it's like, fuck, man, I don't get to deploy with my dog. I don't get to re-enlist with Team 3. I don't get to do the things that I want to do. But you know what, man? Like, I didn't foresee what was going to come, and to be honest, I'm glad I'm out, because if I was still in, I'd be fucking miserable, or I probably wouldn't have a Trident.
Well, especially the whole COVID period of mass and not going to work and checking in, and that I've kept in touch with a number of guys, some of whom stayed in through that. Some got out because of it. I mean, and it's just like, man, what a mess. Well, man, I'm glad that you found a good spot to be in, and and you're still making a difference and doing things that you enjoy. And I do hate to hear that you are yet another notch in the Navy's belt of fucking people over and souring their experience to the point where it makes them say, fuck this, I'm getting out. Because to me, there's no greater travesty than all of the things that someone goes through, especially in your case, 6 times a charm, to become something, and then have something as avoidable as what happened to to make you decide, fuck this, I'm getting out. I do have I noticed you're wearing a belt buckle there.
Yeah. Thanks, brother.
I want to say we have some other things to talk about, but I wanted to just give this to you as I'm kind of wrapping up your professional career in that way.
Appreciate it, man.
Thanks for coming. Hopefully, now this in particular, it opens from the bottom and the front, which is kind of a weird box, but
Gotcha. Oh, dude, that's badass.
yeah. So for my fellow SEAL brethren, that buckle in particular, because there's a handful of different designs. That one actually has tridents in it. They're very subtle, but in some blue gemstones, which I think is a nice mix. But can't thank you enough for coming on the show, sharing your story and experience, especially a fellow dog lover and dog guy, and I appreciate you taking the time to come talk with us.
Hey, man, the honor's mine. I was going through I was doing my homework and just going through some old podcasts of dudes that have been on here, and I'm like, wow, like I know more guys than I thought I would, and a lot of them are some big names, and I'm truly honored to be on here and be one of them now. And I got something for you too.
Oh, cool.
So Red Watch is a company that I started with Mario and a couple other team guys, and so this is our shooting company.
Awesome.
So part of my why is we want to get guns in the hands of patriotic Americans that want to learn how to shoot. So we just started the shooting company in the spring, and we've already had a few successful shoots where people will reach out to us, and you can reach us on Instagram at Redwatch, or my Instagram, Shoot, Eat, and Lift, SEAL acronym, Shoot, Eat, and Lift, and then or email us, and we bring people out. We've got a pretty sweet range where we're not bothered, and it's professional, and we teach people basic combat shooting. It's not speed shooting, it's not competition shooting. It's what we learned in the teams, and I love doing it, and that's kind of like my side hustle, and meet a lot of good people. It kind of got forced on us where we've been doing a lot of stuff with like SEAL Future Foundation and just these different nonprofits, and people are always like, hey, like, you mind teaching me how to shoot on the side? And we kind of all just looked at each other because we were all getting asked the same thing. It's like, dude, let's just start our own company. And in Southern California, like, we're one of the only acts in town. You know, it's like,
Well, yeah, I mean, especially where you're at. Like,
Yeah.
I know there's way more people that want to and enjoy shooting than I think a lot of people would think or realize in
Yeah.
California. You know, so that's awesome.
yeah,
So in May of 2025, Naval Special Warfare began random PED testing after the 2022 Hell Week death. How far do you think, as somebody who's spent a lot of time in BUDS, should safety reforms go before they kind of blunt the edge of the BUDS training process? Where is that happy medium?
I don't know, man. If you you want to stop catching guys, you got to stop testing guys. Guys are always going to do something. I never took anything when I was in BUDS, and 4 first phases and 3 Hell Weeks. Like, you can do it without the drugs. I mean, I see why they did that, because that was that first phase death was a huge. I mean, it was awful. It was tragic, and it should never happen. But would he have died? Would that kid have died if he wasn't taking drugs?
Do you know what he was taking?
I had heard that. I mean, there was all sorts of shit they were getting from Mexico, and it was like one of them was like Viagra, and then there was like just a whole bunch of. I mean, Geary was talking to Sean Ryan about it, and he had like the whole list, and I'm like, Jesus, dude, like that's like I even if you're not in BUDS, I don't feel like you should be taking that much gear, I mean, I think in BUDS they should be getting tested, but then once you get to the teams, it's like whatever,
I mean, to me, I agree in that, the only things that, I mean, not that I'm an expert, let me, I guess, preface it with that, but to me, the BUDS process, to your point, and similarly, I did absolutely nothing. I mean, not even creatine.
Yeah.
This is in the 90s, too, where there was far less available. I mean,
Right.
there were guys that I know went to Mexico and stuff, but to me, the only 2 things that would even potentially make sense would be testosterone and HGH.
Yeah.
Maybe some peptides for recovery, but to me, I think where the Navy really fucks up is instead of testing for it, I think that they should do blood panels on, all students, Hell Week and beyond, every fucking team guy, and if there's deficiencies, then they prescribe it and monitor it.
Dude, 100%.
Because why wouldn't you?
Right.
You want your guys to be healthy.
Yeah.
Like, so if a guy's testosterone is in the shitter from 3 TBIs and 5 combat deployments, like, why wouldn't you want to supplement your investment, even if not that guys are a line item, but even if that's how you're looking at it,
Right.
it would make more sense to do it that way.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer. It's
Yeah.
like, you want your guys to be in the best shape possible. Why roll the dice of saying, not only are we not going to allow it, we're going to test for it and shit can you if you. So that's just inherently going to make guys want to do it, be super sneaky about it, do really dumb shit, get it from places where you have no idea how authentic it is.
Yeah.
And it's like the worst of both worlds.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I agree.
For all the other money they spend on dumb shit that we don't need.
Yeah.
Like, that's something that would just help make everybody healthier and better performers.
Totally.
A June of 2025 vet report says 60 to 70% of casualties in Ukraine come from drones. How would you harden today's candidates for a sky that's always hunting them in terms of being at Trident, being fairly close to have, been in that training pipeline and now preparing this generation of SEALs to go overseas and knowing that now drones against many enemies are inherently going to be a part of the equation?
That's a good question, man. I mean, as I think about those drones, all the time and like what I would do, it's like I had buddies before the big, before drones were really a thing, before they started turning into like Terminator style, like Skynet drones like we got now, like they were overseas saying that they would have these drones dropping like fucking bombs on them and shit. And I know they're still doing that, but like, I don't know what the answer is, bro. Like I mean, I'm thinking like I'd have some sort of like shotgun or something to just be like blasting at this thing. But I mean, you're talking about range. You're talking about like sometimes you don't even know they're there. Like, I mean, I feel like the foot soldier, warrior days are almost over when you start implementing these drones. And I know that a lot of like courses are coming up in the teams where they're teaching guys how to run the drones. So, and I applied for an anti-drone like position like a year and a half ago up in like Orange County, and the whole thing was they were going to implement it into like the Trident pipeline. I mean, I don't know what the answer is to that because those things are fucking scary.
Yeah. I recently saw a news clip of a piece of technology that I think the Army either has or it's in its like final stages of testing that looks similar to one of those like small multi-rocket launcher boxes that has, all the holes in it, but instead of holes for missiles launching out of it, it's like concentrated energy. And these boxes, like the theory or the application is that it's these super high directed high energy beams that can completely disable waves of drones.
Like EMPs or something?
I think it's similar. I'm not even going to pretend to understand exactly the inner workings of it, but it's some sort of, it's energy compressed or concentrated to such a degree that it completely knocks them out. So to me, like, the only way I could think is, if I'm the SecDef or whatever, is that any fob has big versions of those giving 360-degree 24/7 coverage of the fob. And then there's man-pack versions that are on vehicles the same way that we used jammers, in Iraq back in the day for IED, remote detonation stuff. Whether it's, backpack versions if you're patrolling or, kind of mid-size versions on vehicles if you're driving somewhere. Like, I don't know how else you combat that or it's just going to be a fucking bloodbath.
Yeah, man. I mean, there's that video of that, I don't know if he was a Russian soldier or a Ukrainian soldier. He's like shooting at the drone with like an AK and it's coming at him and then he just throws his gun at it and it blows up. It's like
crazy, man.
Yeah.
It's terrifying. It's scary times ahead for sure.
Yeah.
During the 4 years of the Biden administration, recruiting was at an all-time low. It was catastrophically low for most guys who have been in, I would say, obvious reasons. Since Trump's been in office, recruiting has ramped up significantly. There's still some catching up to do from the prior 4 years. Maybe you're not the best guy to ask, an 18-year-old that's considering joining, or an 18-year-old that you see as somebody who you think would make a good SEAL prospect. What is your both advice to them and or how would you recruit an 18-year-old that you think would be a potential asset at this point?
I mean, the first question is why? Like, why do you want to do it? That's what the first question to me was. I feel like that's what most team guys ask young potentials. It's like, why do you want to do this? It's like asking cops why they want to be cops. I mean, I think it's pretty clear that, Trump is for the military, he's for America, and, you can kind of get let off the leash a little bit more. And it's no wonder why, recruiting and retention went down during Biden's administration. But for me, it was like, I didn't care like what the negatives or what the cons were for joining the military. It's like, I just knew I wanted to be a SEAL. And, for any young kids out there that have that same feeling, it's like, you got to dig deep down and ask yourself why. Like, why do you want to do this? And stick to that why, Like, for me, I just wanted to, I knew we were in a war, and I wanted to serve with what I thought was the highest level of dudes that were fighting this war and kill bad dudes.
I mean, to me, like, on a broader scale, I'm curious, with the souring of the community experience-wise for you personally, which led to you wanting to get out, if an 18-year-old that again, nobody knows who's going to make it through training, but you can identify like, that dude should do something like that. That guy comes to you, are you going to say, I don't know that I would go in, or would you try to convince him that he should?
I'm not going to convince anybody of anything. It's what's between your ears. And for as much, shit that I feel like I talk about the Navy or whatever, it's like I wouldn't change anything as far as my decision to go in and to keep going. And here's the thing is, if all the good dudes get out, or if no good dudes try out, like, it's never going to change. It's like you may have a good candidate come in and fucking like lead the pack in the right direction. It's like I would never discourage anybody because of that hope that somebody's going to come through that is still a fucking warrior and a pipe hitter and has good core values and wants to do the right thing and help the community and try to like be an example. My reasons for getting out was just like the time was up. But some young green tadpole that wants to get out there and try to make a difference, I say go for it.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. TikTok's 2025 Army Basic Training tag has millions of posts. Do you think that social media prep helps or hurts prospective candidates military-wide?
What do you mean by prep?
Like just the exposure to people doing shit on Instagram or TikTok that shows like glimpses into the military life, and even some channels that are geared towards helping prospective candidates come in and do whatever job. Do you think that that's a positive or a negative?
I feel like all the stuff I've seen on like TikTok, I mean, I don't even have TikTok, but like Reels or whatever that I see is a bunch of clowns, just like, fat, out of shape, people in uniform doing like trending dances and shit like that. So I haven't seen a whole lot of like badass recruiting type stuff or like, hey, this is what, it really is or what it really looks like. I mean, I haven't, it just seems like a bunch of softies just showing off because there's no hard fighting going on, so.
Is it a fair assumption to say that from what you've seen, it's maybe attracting the wrong type of candidate?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. I mean, it used to be like you saw like a service member and you're like, that person's been through, at least boot camp and they're tough. And it's like now it's like you can't even fit in your uniform.
Yeah. Yeah. I hate it. This shit drives me nuts. China just concluded a 2-day war game around the whole Taiwan scenario, doing live fire drills. I mean, kind of a full FXT or FTX rather. Do you think that, one, the United States has any business in terms of involvement with Taiwan should China decide to overtake it? And two, do you think that there's any type of stress testing or further ways to ensure that our community, should something like that break out with China in particular? Because I think it's easy to ascertain that China is a whole different animal in terms of fighting them militarily and the preparation that would need to go into that. Do you think that there's a way, should we get involved, to kind of prepare or stress test the community to be ready to do that?
I mean, I feel like it's coming, and I think if we get involved, we're going to be in for a big surprise. I hate to say that, but I don't know, man. It's scary, just seeing, like, there are a lot of tough badasses that are still in the military, but it's just like anything else. You hear from, the loud complainers, the liberals, these people, crying about whatever they want to cry about, And same thing with like the military. You see, like I just said, you see like a lot of these, fat softies, but if you kind of sift through it, like, there's still some young, hard-hitting, like, frogmen out there, It's like, there's a lot of bitching about, the standards and stuff like that, and I'm one of them. Is like, hold the line, but a lot of, I feel like, our tough young American warriors are still in the fight and still out there and still training hard, and I'm hoping there's more of them than what you see on social media, and I hope we can take China, man. I mean, they outnumber us, and they're smart, and I remember being a kid and my teacher saying like China's the sleeping giant, and it's like I feel like that giant's waking up, and if they go after Taiwan, man, I think it's gonna be some serious shit hits the fan.
Do you think that if they do that we should intervene?
Yeah.
Really? What's the thought process behind that?
I mean, I feel like they're going to crush Taiwan and they're going to control it, and I don't think that's good for anyone. I think that, I'm not always about America stepping into other people's wars or business, but I think in that particular case, like we should. I just don't think that. I don't think Taiwan's going to be able to do much,
I don't disagree that that's the case. I have mixed feelings on whether or not I think we should do anything about it. I mean, I can certainly see both sides, but yeah, I mean, to me, it's a pretty complicated scenario, which it doesn't seem like there's a great answer in any regard, but. Man, such an inspirational story. Again, I can't thank you enough for coming and sharing it. I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did.
Yeah, man, I was looking forward to it for a while, and I appreciate you having me. It was good to flesh some of this stuff out.
Yeah, awesome. I hope you guys enjoyed it. You know that if you didn't, you can choke yourself. And until next time, this is Mic Drop.